You said this place couldn't break you. That's what you said. Let's see.
You're so strong. You're so strong. Just no. I know. It's all just a dream.
What if all this was designed just to see how we react?
What if this place is trying to torture me?
What if the people these monsters are killing, what if they're all in on it?
What if this is all some kind of fucked up experiment?
What if the answers are out there? Maybe we just didn't go out far enough.
A bus pulls into the town. We have new people who are really, really scared.
We got this one,
Mario.
Christy's fiance. We got Elgin.
He starts seeing dreams and stuff.
The house falls down.
Marielle, Christy, kiss, haircut.
Gets possessed by some dimension of the town.
Then you've got Boyd in a chamber.
Boyd has to get out of the chamber. He meets Martin. Martin gives him worms.
Found out Sarah took my dad's life.
Everyone hates Sarah.
Then Tabitha is trapped in the tunnels.
Victor helped Tabitha escape from the tunnels.
Tabitha's having visions of ghost children that are taking somewhere. Jade's having visions of a symbol.
And he's trying to figure out what the symbol is.
Randall and I just fight, and then he ties me to a tree.
He actually starts to see a ballerina. Who knows why?
And then this music box puts everybody to sleep, which is supposed to, but then when they go to sleep, now they're getting tortured. It's like a nightmare that never ends.
We are kidnapped, us and Marielle.
Yes.
What is this place? Is it a simulation? Is it an experiment?
Then what happens?
Pregnant.
Pregnant.
We get married.
Oh, yeah.
And his wife shows up and he has to deal with her again, but eventually he gets rid of his wife, he gets rid of the worms.
Gives them to the monster, kills Smiley, gives me a blood transfusion.
I tell Boyd he has to break the music box.
He destroys the music box.
People wake up.
And he saves the town, but not really.
Little boy pushed me and then I end up in the hospital.
Boom, boom, boom.
People are still. My family's trapped in a terrifying place. No one can leave.
Why can't they leave us alone? Hello. This place will not break us. The only way we go home is together.
And welcome one, welcome all. As we see there, we got an awesome, nice new promo clip for From Season 3 with some never before heard dialogue from Tabitha. And I'll play it again one more time if you guys didn't catch it. Check out the all new Tabitha dialogue.
My family's trapped in a terrifying place. No one can leave.
Why can't they leave us alone? Hello. This place will not break us. The only way we go home is together.
Oof. My family is stuck in a place where they can't escape. There it is, peeps. We are getting closer and closer now to From Season 3 hitting our screens. Just 12 days away now, guys. 12 days. Man, and it has been a long time coming. A long time coming indeed. We have had a pretty extended hiatus waiting for Season 3 to come around. But I do think the season is going to be worth the wait. And we're getting closer and closer now, guys. Just 12 days. Just 12 more days. And tonight, we, of course, also got some brand spanking new information that has just popped up recently. A all-new look at Season 3, Episode 1 of From. That is right, everybody. We are going to be taking a sneak peek at the first episode of From Season 3 with some all-new stills that have just recently been dropped. And there are some interesting ones, some pretty interesting ones, and we're going to take a look at each and every single one of them and see what we can see. I haven't had a really chance to study them too much yet myself, because I've just been so freaking busy today. But we are going to take a look at them together, all of us, and we are going to see what we can see about Season 3. But first, I know I mentioned earlier in the Discord that this stream is going to be a special stream, a special edition of the Fromville Hour. And that is because we have a very special guest joining us this evening. Some of you might have known him. Some of you may have heard of him. You might have seen him around the way every once in a while. Maybe not. He likes to keep to himself, keep his head down. But we have a very special guest, special indeed. And that is, of course, the one, the only Lord Ravener. Welcome,
hello,
Lord
hello.
Ravener. Welcome back.
Yeah, special in quotes, special like short bus special guest. But no, man,
Yes.
it's good to be back. It's good to be back, man. Can't wait. 12 days? Are you kidding, man?
12 days.
Yeah, they came up with a new description, episode description for episode 10, as well. I mean, I know it had been missing one. It says in the season finale.
Missing episode 9 and 10. We got the first 8 descriptions, but for when that first dropped, the episode 9 and 10 were both blank. They didn't. We had the titles, just not the descriptions at that point.
Yeah. Number 10, it says, in the season finale, Boyd is pushed to his limit as time begins to run out for someone he loves. Tabitha's unlikely journey takes a shocking turn. So, man, we're going to get a cliffhanger. Yeah, it's going to be something. Yeah.
Oof. So we got all kind of new info to dive into tonight, my friend. And I am so awesome to have you back. It just hasn't been the same without you. It has not been the same without you. You are part of the Fromily, and you are certainly a vital part of this channel in particular. And I certainly would have gotten anywhere near as far as this channel did without you and my awesome co-hosts that have been along the way with us for damn near going on 3 years now. So it's good to have you back, my friend. It is really good to have you back.
Nah, man, it is great to be back. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the kind words and everything. No, man, this is, I mean, we came together it was always about things that we enjoyed doing. You know, it started out being comics. It started out, doing different shows. We did, Shogun, we did, the House of the Dragon stuff. It's all about the stuff that we love, and this is the From community is separate from all of that, though, in that there's so much positivity. Everybody just has a passion for this thing, and some people really delve into the theory side of it, the conspiracy theories, and I mean, they may not be conspiracy theories if they end up coming true. But
that's what's so great about the show. So much of these awesome theories that have been floating around out there could potentially end up being true.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Taryn got on the record, though, because I mean, he kind of knows too. The embargo for the reviewers, the reviewer embargo ends on the 16th. So the people that have seen the episodes early are allowed to talk about them on the 16th. So after that point, anybody who comes up with a theory about anything that happens in the first 4 episodes, I'm just going to automatically assume that they've already seen it and they know what's going to happen. It's like, it's easy to be a psychic, a 4-week future psychic when you've seen 4 weeks worth of content. But
and that's why when it comes to From, it's something I've said very early on, and I meant it, and I followed through on my words this year. I'll never accept early access for this show. House of the Dragon is something different. I mean, I have accepted early access for House of the Dragon in the past, but that's a show where the source material I know like the back of my hand, so I have a good idea where that show is going. So I didn't mind really taking it for that. But something like this for From, I want to go and clean every single week. I do not want to see the episodes early, whether they offer me 2 or 4. I'm always going to continue to politely decline. It's not that I don't appreciate the offer. It's a huge honor to even be considered for something like that. But I like watching these episodes week after week with each and every one of you, diving into these things. And and like you said, I like doing episode reviews as well. And it wouldn't be right if I'm watching the first 4 episodes ahead of time and doing episode 1, 2, 3, and 4 reviews. It's just not my thing personally. So yeah, I will never accept early access for this show. I will always politely decline it, because I want to watch every week with each and every one of you. I want to find out this thing with everybody together. Yeah, because that's what's been fun about From. It doesn't have that source material. We have all kind of been on that equal level playing field up until this point, where we're all trying to solve this mystery together. And that is one of the most fun parts of the show is trying to figure it out with everyone every week on the streams and everywhere else.
Oh yeah, yeah. And Cliff Saunders, who plays Dale, he said he's into the theory side of it too, and the guessing side of it too. So he doesn't even though he's married to Donna, Liz Saunders, and they're both in the show. He doesn't want to know, so he wants to preserve it for himself too. He wants to see it, at that same rate too. And I'll tell you, I mean, I'll just for the sake of the audience, I'll let you guys know. Even though Jeremy had access to the episodes and had seen them, he even as I was co-hosting a show with him, he didn't leak not even the slightest bit of info as to what was coming, not even a hint or any kind of indication. So I trust you as far as keeping spoilers to be spoilers and keeping stuff that's secret to be secret. So absolutely.
No, thank you. I appreciate that, my friend. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's just a show like this where it's totally different. It's totally new. None of us know where it's going. None of us know how this thing's going to end. That is some of the most intriguing parts about this show. That's why it wouldn't be fun to kind of watch 4 episodes before everybody else and have to wait 4 freaking weeks to discuss it with all of you guys. No. Let me watch every week with everybody else, and let's unravel this mystery together. But that's just my personal stance on it. I certainly have nothing against early access shows. Again, hell, I took early access for House of the Dragon, so I certainly have nothing against early access. Just for the show, me personally, I want to watch it every week with everybody else. And yes, Jay Ruiz, I love you guys. I love you guys. But no, it really is. It's an awesome community that we have been building here over the last 2 or 3 years. And in particular, From has been a really kind of a high point of this channel in particular. I love covering House of the Dragon and A Song of Ice and Fire. I loved covering Shogun as well. But From just kind of hits on another level where it's extra exciting for me personally. It's probably the show I look forward to the most, not just watching, but talking about it as well. And we've had some awesome members of the community kind of recently find us over the last few months. Now that we're getting a little bit closer to From actually airing, and we're starting to see the fans kind of return to the show a little bit more. It's been so awesome to see all of the new names and faces that we have been seeing in the chat and in the Discord watch party. So I thank everybody who has subbed to the channel lately. Recently crossed the 25,000 subscriber mark, which I never thought would happen in a million years. So I can't thank everybody enough. It's been definitely the coolest fandom I've been a part of in a very long time, maybe even ever.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing, and we get so much. I love. As far as the theory crafting and stuff, I've never really gotten too far into it. There's a few things, like the Brundles being full of bodies. There's a few I call them small theories, like small.
Me too, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not too married to any one particular theory. I have a few different theories on what I think is going on. I have my own theories for the monsters, for what this place is, and things like that. But I'm not really too married to any one particular theory where I can't adjust my theory based on the new information we get from the actual show.
Yeah, but I remember we were saying this in season 1. I mean, people are making guesses to the point where it's statistically is the likelihood is 100% that somebody somewhere will have guessed.
Somebody's going to guess.
I mean, you throw enough spaghetti on the wall, something's going to stick. Yeah,
you throw enough shit, something's going to stick eventually. No, you're right. And I think that was kind of a similar mindset that a lot of the fandom had when Lost was on. It was very similar to this in terms of the mystery aspect to it. Everyone was wondering, where is this thing going to go? How's it going to end? So you kind of had that feeling with Lost. And then the Lost ending came around, and it was legit something nobody guessed. Nobody. There were some close guesses that were on kind of some similar areas, but in terms of what the actual ending of Lost ended up being, nobody guessed it. It was one of those endings that kind of floored a lot of us. And part of me is really hoping we get something similar here with From. Like you said, the likelihood that someone hasn't already guessed is incredibly low. I mean, or at least gotten incredibly close to what they're doing. But part of me, just as a fan of the show and as a fan of the writers, part of me really would love if we get to this we get to the last episode of From, and whatever the big reveals are is something that none of us saw coming around. I would love for that to happen. But like you said, the probability of someone already guessing it is pretty high, considering all of the theories that are out there.
Right.
Somebody's going to guess right at some point.
One of the thing is, man, if they do, I mean, if they, that would be even more miraculous if they somehow have something that we have never seen before. We've never seen in some form or another. We haven't seen a simulation theory before. We haven't seen an alien theory before. We haven't seen an extended, who shot JR dream sequence. Somebody wakes up, or a Bob Newhart.
Exactly.
You wake up at the final episode, it was all a dream. And there's a lot of, there's a case to be made for each one of those, those overarching theories. But the trouble is trying to square all the rest of it, and that's where, you can't, you just have to stop it at some point, because you can't shoehorn every single aspect into one overarching theory and make it all, jive together. And it's like, what the heck is going on here? So yeah, I'm super stoked. I'm ready to go along for the ride. They have it set up for a fixed number of seasons. So apparently MGM Plus has bought into it, and they're going to.
They seem to be.
Yeah, they're going to let it run its course. So I hope, man.
I mean, when you look at MGM, that yes, they're a smaller streaming service. They're still kind of getting their feet. But I have to imagine From is their main draw, or very close to it. I know Godfather of Harlem, when season 2 of From was on and Godfather of Harlem was on, I think Harlem was beating it out by a small margin, that they were getting a little bit more viewers. But I think when season 3 airs, it is going to become MGM's most watched show, and hopefully their flagship show. And hopefully, you never know what that could turn into. I mean, there's already been discussions in the Discord and in the chats of potentially a From spinoff at some point in a totally different time period, which is something I would be totally up for, especially, considering, like you said, the show will eventually end. And depending on how it ends, they have set up such a rich world here with potentially so much history that is still left to explore. Because one thing that John Griffin mentioned very early on, before season 1 even answered, he talked about the history of From, and he talked about this story that we're watching right now being right around the middle of its history point, meaning we're going to get everything that's going to come on the show being the future. But he also hinted that there's a ton of stuff before, a ton of events before our townsfolk that we know here that happened Lord knows how long ago back. So the way he made it seem was we were kind of smack dab in the middle of this Fromville history, of this story that we're watching right now, which means there's plenty to explore ahead of us, but there's also plenty to explore behind us as well. So I would love to see a spinoff at some point, maybe in a different time period of Fromville, and kick the door open a little bit more.
Right. And the thing, I mean, a show like this kind of lends itself to that ensemble cast. Change the actors, change their personalities, and you'll get an entirely different show, even if the overall,
even if the setting is the same.
Ideas, yeah. Like these people.
Which is why I was so bummed we never got a Lost spinoff. I mean, Lost, they set up on that show that the island had clearly been around for tens of thousands, maybe even millions of years. Who knows really how old the island is? That's one thing the show never truly answered, but they definitely answered that it was ancient as hell. So that was one thing I was always a little bit bummed about. I know there were some small attempts here and there to potentially create a show that was set in the Lost universe, and none of them ever really got off the ground. None of them even ever made it to filming a pilot episode. That it seems like none of them got far at all. So I was always a little bit bummed about that, just considering it is one of my favorite shows of all time, and it's set in such a rich world. Like that island is such a great setting for a TV series, where even though we've explored a lot of the island, like you said, you grab a whole nother time period, a whole new cast of ensemble characters, and boom, you got a whole new show that has similar kind of concepts that everybody knew and loved from Lost. That's what you want to see in a successful spinoff.
Oh yeah. I mean, just imagine the Boyd. What if the Boyd character in a different show was more tyrannical? Or what if he wasn't a good leader? What if he wasn't a charismatic person that could get people to go along with everything? What if everybody went their own way? I mean, maybe you'd have fewer people because more people would have gotten killed. What if they had somebody like say somebody with the personality of Randall was the calmest person in the town? So, and everybody else is either just not able to get, and that's not even counting time period. Say that they use any of the dates on the thing. Say it was in 1864. Well, there's you'd go from a Civil War battlefield to a town that's completely separated from everything. Then again, pioneers are like, a lot of the overland travelers and stuff, that was not, you could live like that for the longest time, completely isolated from everybody else. A lot of the settlers did that. You'd be miles and miles from anybody. You wouldn't know if you were in a Fromville, realistically.
Yeah, you might not even know until you see the monsters on your doorstep. Yeah. And based on some of these season 3 trailers and stills, I mean, it does look like we're going to be traveling to new areas of Fromville, and potentially new areas that seem to have structures in them that look incredibly old, like they haven't been lived in for a very long time. So there are kind of subtle hints all over the show pointing to other time periods that people maybe inhabited this place. We see the ruins all over the place, the stone ruins that Boyd encounters Martin in, but also the other stone ruins that him and Kenny walk by when they first notice the leaves are starting to fall. There's clear evidence all over this place that some kind of human civilization has been here going back centuries maybe. And another one with the whole hut where Boyd originally even finds the talismans. That thing is incredibly old. That is not a new structure. Right. So yeah, I would love to see something explore some of the kind of some of the past of Fromville if they don't explore all of it during the show. But let me say what's up to the chat a little bit as well. I am sorry, guys. We sometimes just like to dive right into it. It's such an awesome show, and we're getting so close. But yeah, and thank you for the snow effect. Yeah, I actually created that myself. It's actually super easy to do. If you have a really good still and you have a decent little editing software, it's super easy to add some snow to a image and kind of create that effect like it's moving. So yeah, I actually created this background. I thought it would just be a fun one for the feeling of Fromville that we're going to be getting early on in season 3. Here we go. Let's see who else we got in the chat. Let me scroll up here a little bit. And again, welcome everybody on this fine Tuesday evening as we dive into the Fromville Hour. And I hope everyone's doing well. I hope everybody is doing well on this fine Tuesday as I continue to scroll up. Let's see, we got Jay Ruiz in the house. What is up, Jay? It is good to see you. Let me scroll up a little bit more. I see Nikki in the house as well. What is up, Nikki? Always good to see you, my friend. We got Vic as well. What is up, Vic? Domino's Pizza, can I help you? Yes, I will have a large BLT with a side of chicken tenders. That's what I'll get. How long will they be here, Vic? How long? Is it a speedy delivery? That's what I want to know. We got Julie B in the house. What is up, Julie B? Welcome to you. Welcome. Julie B's been starting her own channel recently and getting ready to put out her first From video, which I think people are going to enjoy. Based on the topic that she's kind of diving into, I think people are going to enjoy it. So definitely keep an eye out. And a big thank you to everybody who has subscribed to Julie B's channel as well. We got her to 100 subs super fast. And, the first milestone is always the toughest. It's downhill from here, Julie. Downhill from here. And I think you're going to have fun. We got Ando in the house as well. What is up, Ando? Good to see you. We got the Rogue Prince in the building. Welcome. We got the Movie Guru in the house as well. Welcome, Movie Guru. We got Robert Saunders in the building. What is up, Robert? Good to see you, my friend. I see Scarlet Fever in the house as well. What is up, Scarlet? I see Mandy in the building. What is up, Mandy? I see Xavier Anderson hanging out with us as well. Do you think Victor is going to dig up his mom, her notes/drawings, emergency stash of peaches, or none of the above? Or Christopher's body, his notes/drawings of the sign, or NOTA? Yeah, I think obviously he's definitely looking like he's going to be digging up something that's going to trigger back some of his memories. My first instinct was maybe he is digging up a stash of drawings, but it also could be a stash of photographs maybe. We were talking a little bit about the Polaroid that Jade finds, the Polaroid of Christopher with young Victor in the background. And we started to wonder, are there other Polaroids around in Fromville that we maybe haven't seen yet? If there's one, there stands to reason that there is probably more than one Polaroid picture. So maybe he'll be digging up some pictures, maybe some drawings, something along those lines. Whatever it is, it looks like he's looking for a physical item that is going to trigger his memories. And I did see the theory going around of him potentially digging up his mom's body. I certainly hope that is not the case. And I certainly hope he didn't bury his mom right there of all places, just like right out, like out in the middle of not out in the middle of nowhere, but it seemed like a weird spot for a burial, especially for your mother. So I hope he's not digging up his mom's body.
Right, right. Well, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, because obviously, just from what we've seen in the trailers, that something is finally lighting a fire under Victor. Where, you know, instead of avoiding bringing up these memories or doing everything he could to not talk about these things, something is really inspiring him to, you know, to press forward. And it could be Tabitha's disappearance. It could be, you know, who knows what. It could be the impending whatever. Strife or trouble that's hanging over the town, where he can no longer just withdraw to himself, and he'll have to start telling that info. I mean, you know, different people along the way have kind of almost like threatened him, or kind of like forced him to, you know, like, look, you can't do this, you know, like Jade said in the violin episode, you know, you can't be the, you know, the mysterious weirdo guy, you know, you've got to tell, you know, you've got to start telling this stuff. Something, you know, must have inspired Victor to realize that he does have to open up if he's ever gonna, you know, save everybody else, maybe. And it could be Tabitha. It could be that connection that he made with Tabitha over the artwork. So. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think it is. I mean, because we've seen a few people try to get through to Victor in the past, and they've all used different methods, and none of them seem to work. Whether you're trying to, you know, cozy up to him, or we saw in Jade's case, Jade kind of gets almost rough with him a little bit. You know, he's yelling at him. He's kind of grabbing him at one point. Don't you want answers? Don't you want to go home? And we get that beautiful line from Victor, you know, saying, "This is my home," which still one of the best lines of the show, in its delivery. But then we see Tabitha, and we see the approach that Tabitha starts to take towards Victor, very much more of that soft-handed, soft-spoken, motherly kind of approach, which is exactly the kind of touch that Victor needs. I mean, that's the one thing he's probably looking for. Obviously, we saw that he and his mother had an incredibly close relationship. I mean, him and his mother were super close. She would play violin to kind of calm him down when he was afraid. It seems like they were, you know, they did everything together. So him losing his mother, you can totally understand why that maybe traumatized him so much and has really kind of stunted his growth and his development. So when Tabitha kind of comes around, maybe filling this kind of surrogate mother role for Victor, you can totally see why he's starting to kind of bring some of those walls down a little bit, why he's starting to be a little bit more open. Not with everything, obviously, this still is Victor, but he's at least willing to try and look in places for answers where before he wasn't even willing to even look there because he was too afraid of what the consequence would be. But I do think Tabitha is the factor there, especially now that Tabitha is gone potentially. Mm-hmm. And it does look like the town is going to find out that she did indeed escape at some point, most likely. Yeah, I think if anything's going to motivate Victor to find answers, it's going to be because of Tabitha.
Yeah. And I mean, and she wasn't the age difference between Miranda and Tabitha isn't that great. So, you know, if his development or his emotions have been stunted, we've seen, with Victor's interactions with Ethan, it's like two children interacting. The marker was dry.
The
orange
marker was dead. It was a bad gift.
Yeah. So we've seen that. I mean, so yeah, mentally he's in that same place. So when somebody of approximately the same age as his mother, it's a short putt to have him, cozy up to her and seek that, the replacement essentially. Yeah, so that oh man, that's going to be something
he's probably looking for. But yeah, I think it's something he's been looking for a very long time, because obviously he's been here for a while, but it doesn't seem like he's ever really gotten too close to anybody. Like even Donner and people at Colony House don't seem like they're very, very close to Victor. He kind of sticks to himself up in the attic, doesn't talk to many people. Tabitha seems to be the first one that has kind of penetrated that wall and really started to make Victor feel maybe less afraid.
So now, at least as far as the town knows, Tabitha's just gone. Tabitha and Victor went out into the woods, and Victor returns alone. And that it's like the joke, it's like, you're walking with somebody and they're like, oh man, these woods are scary. And you're like, think of how I feel. I've got to walk back alone, but, but what do you think that process is going to be? How do you think that Tabitha is going to indicate to the town, or how do you think the town is going to be made aware that Tabitha isn't just in a shallow grave somewhere,
lost, dead somewhere? Yeah, because I imagine that's probably going to be their first reaction. And like you said, all Victor knows is that he led her to the bottle tree that supposedly leads her to the tower, but he has no idea if she actually made it to the tower. If she made it to the tower, what happened to her there? Victor is only going to know so much when he comes back to town. And I think that might be what spurs Jim and Kenny to potentially head out into the forest as early as episode 1, if some of these stills are accurate for episode 1.
Right.
No, I think there's 2 really good options. I like Julie's idea as one of the options, but my personal favorite idea was one of the things that I kind of talked about in my trailer breakdown. We hear the phone ring in the season 3 trailer, the phone, and Jim picks up the phone. Now, I think a lot of us have really wanted to see that storyline continue in terms of who the hell was that voice on the other end of the radio at the end of season 1 with Jim and the radio tower. They barely touch on it in season 2. We get a few small lines even referring to it, and then nothing else. So they have to continue that storyline at some point. I do think this is going to be the season to do it. Jim gets that phone call. And I don't know, part of me would just love if it's that same voice that was on the radio at the end of season 1, only now they're saying, your wife shouldn't have went home, Jim. Your wife shouldn't have escaped, Jim. Okay. And that could potentially give them an indication that Tabitha maybe made it out into the real world. Okay. But the second idea, and I got to give Julie B credit for this one because I really like this idea as well. And she came up with an interesting one. In terms of, we know that we are getting some newcomers in the town as early as episode 4. We're going to see the ambulance arrive that we see in the season 3 trailer. And I thought it was an interesting idea that the cop, Acosta, one of the new characters that we are going to be seeing in season 3, might have some information on Tabitha. Because when you look at some of the surrounding instances, and I kind of had a similar idea in terms of what Tabitha is going to go through right when season 3 starts, with her being in the hospital. Now, just given the very nature that she has been missing for a little while, especially not just her missing, her entire family has been missing. But if she pops up in this random hospital by herself and the rest of her family is still missing, the authorities are definitely going to want to reach out and talk to her. At the very least, they're going to question her and find out, where have you been? You've been missing for a while. Where have you been? Where's your family? Yada, yada. So at the very least, the authorities are probably going to want to talk to her. And we do know from the awesome detective skills from the Discord and Julie and Taryn and everybody else, we know that the ambulance that arrives in season 3 does seem to be from Knox County. And of course, Camden, Maine is in Knox County. And a lot of people seem to think Tabitha is in Camden, Maine right now. And there's definitely some good surrounding evidence to support that. So if Tabitha ended up in Camden, Maine, in the same town where this cop Acosta is an officer, there's a potential chance. I mean, it's a very small town, so there's not going to be a whole lot of cops in this town to begin with. So there stands a decent chance that Acosta maybe could have been one of the officers sent to the hospital to question Tabitha. And that is how she probably could have met and known Tabitha. Then when she gets stuck here in Fromville, and maybe she sees a picture of Tabitha in Jim's possessions, or they find out that she finds out that Tabitha is missing by word of mouth. Maybe she could kind of have that light bulb click off, like, holy shit, I've seen this woman. She arrived in a hospital after she arrived on the side of a road for 3 days, because that's pretty much what we learn about Tabitha. She gets pushed out of the lighthouse, and apparently, according to the doctor in the hospital anyway, a few hikers find Tabitha's body on the side of a trail, and she's been in the hospital for around 3 days until she finally wakes up. So I think that could potentially be a possibility. Acosta bringing the information into Fromville, letting everyone know that she did indeed make it back out into the real world. But part of me, just for story and canon-wise purposes, the way that they set up that radio at the end of season 1, I would love if it was that voice that when Jim does pick up that phone, I would love if it was that same voice just informing Jim, saying, hey, your wife shouldn't have escaped, Jim. So that's where I think might potentially happen with the town finding out that Tabitha is in the real world and not just dead somewhere. Because we also heard some surrounding evidence from John Griffin, the creator, and he says that escape is going to be a very real and tantalizing possibility for the survivors this year. So if escape's going to be a real possibility, where's that going to come from? How are they all of a sudden going to know that there's some kind of escape that's possible unless they maybe learn that Tabitha did make it out?
Right. And to say that it's tantalizing, kind of indicates that there might be a reason not to do it as well. You're being tempted to do it, but then there's a reason not to. Some people what if it's a connection? What if Kenny could leave, but then that means he's going to have to leave Christy?
Well, no, he says exactly why it's a tantalizing possibility of escape. And he also goes on to say, but are they willing to sacrifice their humanity to achieve it? So whatever they learn, it seems like you mentioned, you're spot on. It's going to have a price. It is not going to be this easy, let's just walk out of Fromville. It sounds like there is going to be some kind of price that needs to be paid to get them out, based on them potentially sacrificing their humanity.
Wow. Okay. Wow. So there's a lot, a lot to work through. I like and I do like what Julie did with the Camden, Maine and Knox County connection. That's the kind of stuff. I mean, because there's a lot of theories that are based on feelings and that's the thing about this show. And I've repeated this time and again. There's a lot of things that are evocative in this show. There like a lot of the symbolism and stuff. It evokes Native American. It evokes Norse. It evokes a lot of different things. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's related, and it certainly doesn't mean that it's the key to unlocking the whole story. But her research with Camden, Maine, I guess, like the view that Tabitha saw out the window of the lighthouse, she had actually taken photos that are similar to that exact same.
Apparently Julie B has seen that exact view, like literally that exact same view. Obviously, there's not really a hospital there. That's something they added for the show. The hospital, St. Anthony's, where she is, that's fake. But apparently she's like seen a similar view to that, and that's kind of what made it stand out for her when she saw the episode, which is crazy.
Yeah. So, and the thing is, Camden, Maine, they could use Camden, Maine as the background, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to name it by name. If they do, if it literally turns out that she is in Camden, Maine, that it's a town of 5,200 people. So you could have the sheriff or the police chief and a deputy, like a Boyd and a Kenny, essentially. If a complete stranger did get found, like a stranger from Arizona is found on the side of a hiking trail by hikers, all scratched up and completely across the country. That is, it is not outside, possibility that the deputy will know about that. I mean, they will be informed. The one of two. How many in a town of 5,200 people? How many law enforcement are you going to have? Maybe a handful tops. Maybe.
Yeah, not too many. 5, 6 or so around there, something like that, maybe.
Yeah. So, it was not at all impossible that she would know about that.
It's not a stretch.
Yeah.
It's not much of a stretch.
I would love that, though. I mean, your theory about the phone call, because that was a thing. I mean, and this is just all like a theory or an idea that just comes together. We were talking about, Victor goes out with Tabitha, comes back by himself. Everybody, and Jim's not too fond of Victor to begin with. So, I mean, he's not going to be positively disposed to believing him. And he's like, well, what happened to her, Victor? I don't know. That shit ain't going to wash. Yeah. So those guys are going to probably want to beat the living crap out of him. It would take something literally like the mysterious phone call, like you're mentioning, to say, Jim, your wife made it out, or what's Tabitha doing? How did she get out? Something like that, for Jim to believe it, that she actually did get out. I mean, because again, a lot of this, a lot of the theory crafting and stuff is great, but you have to go with what we're shown. And this is what, this is what we're going to be shown. I mean, these guys, and that's one of the major complaints, or one of the major commentaries, is nobody communicates with each other in this town. So it's not like, we know very little, but the people in the town know even less, just because nobody shares this critical info. One thing that I was going to be
we have the unique audience point of view perspective where we have a much kind of broader picture of the whole picture as a whole, because we're getting to see every one of these character storylines unfold. But like you said, these people are not communicating with each other, so one doesn't know what the heck the other is doing half the time.
So one other thing that I wanted to explore was from what we got from the trailer, when Tabitha's in that church. And I want to make, if she's in a confessional, if she's in a dark, that dark cubbyhole of a confessional and talking to a priest about what was going on, I mean, we all want to make that connection with Katri. But Katri is from St. Charles, Illinois.
I'd rather make that connection with Eloise, like that Eloise potentially talked to this same priest when she first got out as well. And now this priest, all these years later, is hearing this exact same story where maybe he thought Eloise was crazy this whole time. That's why I really like the idea that Tabitha is going to get on the trail of Eloise and maybe find out that she's been locked in an insane asylum for the last few decades because nobody believed her story, including this priest.
So you think that priest is going to hook him up with the old man? Yeah.
Well, I think exactly. The priest hears this story all these years later and thinks, holy shit, Eloise wasn't lying to me. And then maybe that's how she finds Henry.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, because this is what we're dealt with. These are what we have to extrapolate from these few little of 1 second scenes in a 45-second or a 3-minute trailer. It is, I mean,
it's just theory crafting at this point. I mean, we don't have enough data to really know anything. It's really just kind of going on feeling with some of these theories, to be honest. You try to back it up with as much surrounding evidence as you can, but at the end of the day, that's what makes a theory a theory. Is it's might be wrong, might be right.
Right. No, the chat is calling for the new stills.
Yes, we have the new stills right here, and there's some interesting ones. I mean, most of the stills that they released are just different angles from scenes we've already seen, so there really isn't a whole lot here, to be honest. There is a few things. There is a few interesting things. And one thing I did notice that Geek Academy noticed in the Discord, he pointed this out, was something that was very interesting, that some of these weird totems tend to have this same little cut on the forehead that every single one of the Ankui children have. Not sure if there's a connection there or if it's just coincidence, but I thought that was a pretty interesting connection that he noticed and dropped into the Discord today. Because you look at some of these things and they have these weird cuts on their forehead, and the Ankui children all have the exact same slice on their forehead. But there's not a whole lot here. Again, a lot of this stuff is just different angles of stuff that we've already seen in the trailers, but we do get a few good nuggets, like these things here, for instance. We've been wondering what the hell other kind of settlement they are going to find in season 3, just based on that quick little snippet we get. And we also see that one scene of Kenny and Jim looking off in the distance and Kenny instantly pulling out his gun. And we were wondering, is that going to be the same scene where they find this cannibal village? Because when we actually see the cannibal village in the trailer, it's covered in snow, way more snow than here. So a lot of us were wondering if those are two different scenes. Now, at least we do have confirmation that it is Jim and Kenny that will be finding this place, most likely right there in that very first episode. But another thing I thought was interesting, they enter the town. They literally enter the old town. We see Jim right next to one of the huts. But we also see Kenny next to this incredibly large body of water that I don't think is the Brundles. And this has me very interested because we haven't come across any other body of water anywhere in Fromville yet.
Okay, right. I've been watching this guy named Post 10. It's a channel that basically he's from Maine or somewhere up in the Northeast, and what he does is goes and moves beaver dams out of these culverts, and that looks like a beaver pond when the beavers block up the culverts from
yep.
So, but it's kind of funny. But this is by far and it's the largest amount of open area, because we couldn't ever see how far back the Brundles goes, but the Brundles also looks like, I mean, the thing is, whether it's a beaver pond or a flood or whatever, trees aren't going to be growing up out of it, or or they'll drown within a certain amount of time. Whether it's grass, whether it's whatever, all that stuff will die eventually if it's completely submerged when it's not designed to be that way. So yeah, seeing a big wide open body of water, it's not a outside the realm of possibility that that's something that they just discovered on their completely separate on their adventures. And believe me, yeah, man, I clicked everything into 1080, 4K, and was going over those pictures, the new ones. And again, because we don't get a whole, I mean, we get a little bit, it shows us a little bit, but it doesn't show us a whole bunch.
Doesn't show us much. No.
Yeah. A few things. I mean, one thing I'm noticing, all the totems for Cannibal Village, the way we know that they're not skulls, right, is they got noses. That like a skull would have the nose caved in. All these things seem to be carved in one way or another. Even if it's, I don't know if it's a mummified head, but somehow the nose, even on the and looking at the still of the cabin with the wagon wheels. Another thing, I did a little quick research. Steel shod wagon wheels, like wagon wheels, they literally call the piece of metal around the outside of a wooden wagon wheel a tire. It's just metal, but they call it a tire. That didn't come around till they said the last quarter of the 18th century. So that would be 1775 to 1800. And that would make
a little bit of sense. All of these cabins look incredibly weathered, like they've been here for a very long time.
And that was when it hit England. So I mean, if America as a colony was, or not as a former colony was, we were kind of a backwater at that point in time. So we may have been a few years behind the times, but yeah, I was looking very carefully to see that there was metal rims on these wagon wheels, because that would have anchored it in time. There's a time,
would have dated it a little bit, at least given us a rough estimate as to when at least it was after.
Right. And looks like it's a basic, it looks like Lincoln log cabin, so that could have been any time.
Especially with the way they come, with the way they meet, and of course the wooden chimney as well, which is another kind of really interesting giveaway of how old this thing potentially is. Looks like this one might be a stone one. It's hard to tell that this one in the back, but this is definitely a wood chimney. Now, wood chimneys are, they were made. They weren't very common. Obviously, you don't want to make a chimney out of wood mostly. You have to kind of insulate the inside to keep it from burning the whole house down. But it looks like we at least have one wooden chimney here, which is very telling as to how old this thing might potentially be.
Right, because I mean, they figured that out during the Industrial Revolution, which would be Victorian era of England, kind of. You don't want to have a wooden chimney. And the thing is, with the abundance of rocks and stuff, this is a rocky landscape to begin with. They can build stuff out of rocks and stone, and even if it's unfinished stone, you can just stack them. Loose stone without mortar or whatever. I mean, I guess, in a place that has abundant timber, you'd make a log cabin, but you would think that one of the first things that you do is make a stone hearth and chimney, because, fire was a thing. I mean, you would lose everything. You'd come home and your house was burned down. That's part of why they went to, I think they eventually had to pass laws to say that you had to have stone hearths and chimneys and stuff, because it was just, especially in towns, because it's one thing if your house burns down, but when your house takes down the block with it.
Yeah, exactly. Once cities and towns start springing up, it comes to a point where you're not just endangering yourself, then you're endangering potentially the whole community.
That's a
major
party foul.
The chat is major party foul. The chat is calling for these stills, and we're going to go through each and every one of these stills. I'll just start from the very beginning, and we'll go through each of them one at a time. Let me catch up real quick. We got some awesome stuff here. Why does the priest look like Martin? I did notice that when you guys were mentioning that earlier as well. I didn't notice it at first, but then when I took a closer look, the priest does kind of have a striking resemblance to Martin's facial structure. They have the exact same cheekbones. They have the exact same nose. They do have a lot of similarities. Now, I don't know if that's just coincidence and they just happen to look alike, or if there's something more there. I don't know. But I did notice the priest does kind of almost look a little bit like Martin in a certain way. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll find out. Finally caught another live. Awesome, Mackie Vals. Good to have you. We got Catherine Brown. Maine is one big state. You're from Maine or away. I'm not from Maine myself, but I am from Massachusetts, and we have some very similar landscapes right here as well. So welcome, my fellow Northeasterner. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's see what else you got. Fromville does need a new priest. I mean, you're absolutely right. We do kind of need a new priest. I mean, Father Cotchery did fill that role for a little bit until he was unceremoniously taken off the board, and we've seen no priest arrive since then. So, and maybe we never will. And then, I mean, there's all the other interesting theories as to why there's no Bible here in Fromville, which is very interesting. I still love that comment that someone left on one of my videos not too long ago, stating that maybe the reason there's no Bible in Fromville is that if you're traveling with a Bible, that protects you from getting trapped in Fromville. Because again, just the stats alone, the probability of all of these people getting stuck here over who knows how many years, the fact that not a single one of them ever had a Bible they were traveling with in their glove compartment or car or anything like that is
a priest especially
impossible. Especially a priest. I mean, it's almost impossible when you think of these statistics. And I just thought that was an interesting theory from someone on one of our recent videos in the comment section, saying that maybe the Bible is protecting people from getting stuck here. Which is an interesting theory. I mean,
yeah, and we know they had a motel at one point. Now, you telling me that every dresser drawer in the motel didn't have a Gideon Bible in it?
Exactly. Especially every no-name motel like that that's out in the middle of the sticks and is $20 for a room every night. Every freaking one of those kind of motels has a little Bible in the drawer.
Then again, maybe that's why the motel's not there. They got the swimming pool, they got the sign, but they don't have the building. That could be.
It's very true. Very true. Till D says, no voice on the phone to Jim is as infuriating as a jukebox playing for Kenny. It's taunting and could be infuriating to them. Maybe. That's also a possibility that Jim picks up that phone and there's just nothing there. That is possible. Although, I don't know, something is telling me that it is going to be a continuation of that same voice that he heard. It might not be saying anything about Tabitha, but I do think that is going to be the same voice that Jim heard at the end of season 1. They have to continue that storyline, and that is the perfect way to bring that back into the main forefront of the story. So I think it will be the voice. What it says, who knows?
Yeah, that's another thing. That jukebox is another strange thing. If they were trying to figure things out or something, when the music box came on or the jukebox came on, and I can't remember what dialogue it was, what interaction it was, but they said, it might have been when the Matthews just got into town or something. And they say, it does that from, whatever, from time to time. So Tian Chen, being the one who's in the diner more than anybody, then again, an elderly Asian lady, who speaks mostly Cantonese,
and who is a Buddhist.
Yeah. Although she has a cross around her neck, there's a lot. I mean, she probably wouldn't be a good receptacle of knowledge for 50s era, like Roy Orbison era music, because we heard Bob Dylan, we heard I can't remember who it was. We Got to Get Out of This Place, in the very early time.
Wake up, little Susie.
Yeah, Roy Orbison, all that stuff and I think what was it? It was the 50s. I remember looking that up at the time. The Wake Up, Little Susie.
It was late 50s. I believe I want to say it was late 50s when we looked it up. I know it was right around that area. I think.
Yeah, I know it was the Everly Brothers. I just don't remember. But anyway, the point being that it was. It showed they played it on the Ed Sullivan Show in 1957. So.
Sometime right around there sounds about right.
So that anchors it in time. Right. So, but I mean, maybe they could derive some little breadcrumb of a clue by writing down every time the music started playing spontaneously, what song it was, who was present at the time, to see if there's any kind of significance to that. Because I mean, that's the kind of stuff like things spontaneously turning themselves on. You're going to try to, I mean, you'd think like a person like you or I, or any of our theorists in the chat and whatnot, that you're going to try to figure out why this stuff is happening. I mean, the mysterious electricity from wires that lead to nowhere. They know they can't plug anything in. Anything from outside the town doesn't plug in to the outlets in the town, but anything that's in the town, like the lamps and stuff or the lights, you can turn them on and turn them
It's
off.
already hooked into it. Yeah, it's already hooked. Anything that's native to Fromville, anything that comes in from the outside, we see Jade has to find up a very kind of clever workaround to get any of that stuff to even work.
Mm-hmm. Right, and string it from an existing outlet.
The only kind of anything that's even closely resembling any kind of pattern in terms of some of the music kind of popping on the jukebox and things like that is, it seems on a few cases, it seems that there are some kind of supernatural event happening when the music goes off. We saw it happen with Elgin in his vision. We saw it happen with Sarah in her message. We saw it happen when Boyd, when he has a vision and the worms start moving. He's actually in the diner, he's about getting ready to talk to Tian Chen. The worms start moving, he collapses, has a vision, and the music box starts playing. So it almost seems like the electricity kind of flickering on and off, it almost seems like it's happening when some of these quote unquote supernatural events are occurring or are about to occur even.
Or his boat song, If I Had a Boat, that when he needed a sign, he's begging for a sign.
When he needed a sign from his wife. Exactly. But in terms of like pattern, like what exactly do all these things has in common? We just don't have enough data on it yet. We have a few small data points that we can look to in terms of, again, some of the similar weird supernatural stuff, but it's just there's not enough info there to really pin down why these fits of electricity are happening out of nowhere. What's causing them? What is the root cause? Is there some kind of connection to all of them? It's still a mystery.
Which is really weird because, I mean, of all the people that had lived in the town and of all the people who have lived in Colony House, it wasn't till Jim gets there and then and Jade get there that they really seem motivated. I mean, Boyd seems to be motivated to find things to improve their situation. That when he went out, I mean, of course he came back with the talismans, but he was going out because he had discovered some of the livestock and thought, well, what more could be out there that will improve our situation here. All of what Boyd was doing was making their stay there more comfortable, but it wasn't geared towards getting out. All the trouble started when guys like Jim and Jade were trying to get away.
Everything that Boyd was doing was literally the opposite of them trying to find a way out. It was trying to find a way to make this place more comfortable and livable because we're probably going to be here for the long term. I mean, it definitely seems like all of the attempts to escape, the radio, Boyd and Sarah trekking out into the forest, it does seem like these events could potentially be what has originally triggered this winter coming around that we're first seeing for the first time and maybe forever for all as we know. At least for the 3 years that Boyd has been here, he's noticed that nothing ever changes here. And of course, Victor says the same thing. He's been here for decades, but we always kind of have to question everything Victor says from now on because his memory has been proven unreliable at times. But even Boyd, someone who's been here for as many years as he has also confirmed that this place never changes. The weather, the leaves never change color. They never fall off the trees. And yes, why is all of this stuff happening now? And we hear Victor say that in the trailer for season 3. Everything is changing. Why is it happening now? He needs to remember what he is forgetting. So I do think that has a very big part to play in terms of why we're seeing all of this stuff happen now. Why is the forest no longer providing livestock for them? Why is it becoming harder and harder to survive here every day from the literal conditions turning on them now? And yeah, it definitely seems to be because they have made meddling attempts to try and escape. And it seems like whatever has trapped them here, whatever is in control of this place, seems like that's the one thing they don't want them doing is trying to leave.
Right. Maybe, I mean, and that goes into whether it's, hope or fear or whatever it is that drives, that's the fuel that drives this town. And the one thing that the town cannot allow is for people to leave, whether it is hope or whether it is fear or no matter what it is, the town could not tolerate fewer people. It seems like they have to have, and there's always a theory of equilibrium that, X number of people die, then X number of people arrive. So it always stays pretty close. Or either, I don't know if we've determine that it stays exactly the same, but I know it stays pretty close to the same. As people die, new people arrive.
Robert Saunders did some interesting kind of investigating on that during season 2, and I do believe he came very close to pointing down the amount of people that we lost in Colony House were almost exactly filled by the number of survivors when the bus arrived. The number of people that actually survived the bus attack. It was super similar, down to like 1 or 2 people, I believe he said. So yeah, I mean, but then again, you point to Victor and the 1978 massacre when the whole town got slaughtered, and Victor was on his own for a very long time. We got no replacements then for a very long time, it seems. So it's hard to tell. Like, does there always have to be a certain number of people in Fromville, or are there only certain kind of time periods where there are certain things happening where that is a little bit more accurate? Because if that was the case all the time, it would stand to reason that after the massacre, the entire town would have got replaced probably a lot sooner than Victor being on his own for decades. So it's tough. There's evidence for both, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's like they keep. I'm not sure that they keep the equal number of male and female. Although it was weird that Megan, that like the same day that Megan died, that was the day that Ethan arrived. So it could be children and adults. It could be who knows.
Yeah, no idea. But let me catch up with the chat a little bit, and then we will start going through all of these stills. There was a phone ringing in the background when Tabitha remembers Thomas falling off the changing table, right? Yeah, I do believe it was a phone call that actually kind of distracted both of them, and that's what kind of caused Thomas to die. So that's interesting, Jay Ruiz. Okay, I think I see where you're going there, that potentially a phone call that came in deliberately distracting Jim and Tabitha, causing Thomas's death. Was that just coincidence, or was there something more there? I see what you're saying, Jay Ruiz, and I like what you're saying. Interesting. The wagon wheel, the chandelier, and the new shots of Boyd, Kenny, and Jim all have a connection to the Ferris wheel drawing, I think. Ooh, okay. Maybe. I'm thinking the only non-supernatural reason for the electricity could be electromagnetism taping into the Earth's magnetic core. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting theories surrounding the electricity and how it functions and how exactly they can use it. And as Glue Guns mentions, I didn't remember that. I didn't know they couldn't plug anything in from the outside in town. I totally must have missed that storyline. What episode was that? Anyone remember? I believe it was season 1, episode 8, I want to say. It was towards the end of season 1 when Jade is kind of experimenting with the electricity. He finds a very kind of clever workaround to get Tabitha's hairdryer to work. And before then, all of the supplies that they had brought with them, none of them worked. They plug them into the outlet and absolutely nothing. So it seems like until Jade figured it out, that only things that were actually native to Fromville actually worked on the electricity that was there. But yeah, again, Jade kind of comes up with a very clever workaround to kind of tap directly into one of the currents.
Yeah, he had to strip out the wire. Yeah, he had to strip out the wire right on the cord to the dryer.
On the lamp,
yeah, and the lamp. Yeah. He undid the bulb on the lamp, but the plug. If he plugged the plug of the hairdryer into the wall, it did not work. But if you strip the wires down and touch the 2 wires to the wires on the lamp, the contacts in the lamp,
live current,
then
boom, then you're good to go.
Yeah. So that's how that worked. That was neat. That was a neat little thing. And then Tianchen, you want the power, and she's flipping the light on and off.
Yeah, you want power? Fun. She just throws the light on. Get power. And I love how Tien Chen was pretty much the inspiration for Jade kind of coming to that conclusion. If Tien Chen had never done that, would Jade have figured it out? I wonder, because it does seem like Tien Chen doing that is what made Jade's own light bulb go off in his head. So yeah, it's you thank Tien Chen for that one, Jade. I think she was your muse there. I don't think the jukeboxes have records in them. Maybe we will find out when Kenny smashes the one what song will be playing, though, when he does. Yeah, that'll be interesting. What song is, because I have to imagine that probably the jukebox coming on is what is going to prompt Kenny to smash it in the first place. And maybe he's hearing a particular song that maybe reminds him of his mother or his father or something like that. If Tien Chen is potentially going to be offed early on in season 3, which I really hope she's not, but there seems to be a lot of evidence, not evidence, but a lot of people seem to think Tien Chen might be the one to go. And I think she very well could be too. I really hope that's not the case. But yeah, maybe Kenny hears some sort of specific song that kind of brings back some kind of memory, and he kind of smashes it.
Yeah,
and then we'll see what happens to the jukebox afterwards. Will it continue to work, or what will happen?
Yeah, and I always thought that, partly because Kenny had lost his father, that Tien Chen would have some kind of plot armor. Because you're thinking how much. I mean, it would be like Boyd losing Ellis or something. He's lost his wife already. They're not going to stack pain upon pain. But I think maybe that'll be that might be what Kenny needs. I mean, Kenny was kind of an ass in the last part of season 2, very unpredictable. And I kind of didn't like his character. He was a little too energetic or a little unpredictable, and he was very free about waving his gun about. We talked about he was arguably, he wasn't necessarily wrong, but it was kind of dickish to just break Sarah's Christmas ornament just out of spite, that kind of stuff. But I always go back to, this is a kid that he has no tether. Boyd really did betray him. Betrayed his trust, if nothing else. So, Kenny, for all the bad character, the decisions that he's making and the way he's overreacting and responding to certain situations in a very weird way, like when he drew his gun on Boyd to try to make Boyd
sit down and let Christy do her work.
Right.
Kenny, you sit down before you hurt yourself with that thing, kid. What are you talking about?
But ultimately, he hasn't really hurt anybody. And I do think that he's just a kind of an undeveloped, maybe he is kind of emotionally undeveloped a little bit, not to the Victor level, but he's coping with it in a different way than what we would probably like to think that we would. But again, he's lost his father, his one, Boyd really was his touchstone, his anchor, his role model, his idol essentially. And then, Boyd was, and mentor also. Boyd was going to pass off the mantle of leadership. If Boyd hadn't come back from the forest, they had that discussion. I'm going to, you're going to have to be the guy to step up. And then all of that was kind of like rug pulled when he found out that Boyd had been sheltering Sarah and knew about what Sarah had done. That Sarah was responsible. So that huge sense of betrayal, and sometimes betrayal is the worst possible thing, because you've got all the effects of the betrayal plus it's the humiliation of being taken for a fool, of trusting somebody and having that trust betrayed. But then also there's humiliation involved. There's just you can't believe that somebody would do that. The level of disrespect, you think somebody, thinks of you at least, as a fellow human or something, and then they do something like that, and then get some half-ass excuse like she might be important to to getting, she may know something. Especially when you're dealing with stuff like voices inside your head, the voices inside her head might be able to help us. Therefore, I had to fuck you over in the worst possible way. That's a tough sell. And I don't think, even Boyd wasn't able to sell that one.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I do think Sarah's going to be very valuable. I do think Boyd ultimately made the right choice. But you can definitely understand why Kenny was upset, to say the least. I do like this, though, concerning the electricity, and it's a two-parter here from Ty Briggs and Nick L. I like where both of you guys are going. Ty Briggs says, I think the town is losing power because they need new Ankui kids to help power the town, which is interesting. Who knows? We still have no idea what those Ankui kids were being used for. But I really like this, what Nick L is saying. Ty, what if the town is losing power because the people are becoming more hopeful for an escape with all the new events? And I like that. I like that idea, because it does seem like the more that the town tries to escape, or the more maybe hope that they have that escape is possible, it does seem like the worse the conditions are getting here. So yes, what if all of their meddling, what if that is the next phase? They're going to start losing their electricity next because they're trying to escape so much. It does seem like things are progressively getting worse every time they go looking for answers. So I like where your head's at, Nick. I think that's a really interesting one. If they continue to meddle, if they continue to go out into the forest, explore, if they continue to look for ways out, could that be maybe the next thing that goes, that they lose their electricity in the dead of winter, no less, during a time where they probably need it now more than ever? So I like that one, Nick. I really like that one. I think that's an interesting one because we have seen evidence that the town is becoming more and more dire based on their meddling. So I like it. I like it. That lake is going to be a good source of food. They have to go fishing, and that's interesting. I wonder if there's any fish in it even to begin with. And again, yes, let's get back to the stills. Let's dive into these stills and go through them. We have kept you waiting. Now, of course, the first one we have Boyd and young Ethan, and I want to say young Ethan, but damn, he is not young Ethan at all anymore. This kid has aged like 5 years in between seasons 2 and 3. It seems. He's growing like a freaking weed, this kid. And I get the feeling that this is going to be happening pretty early on in the episode. And it looks like Boyd is probably just trying to console Ethan now that his mother is gone. I think Ethan is probably going to be taking Tabitha's absence the hardest out of the Matthews family. Of course, he and Tabitha are incredibly close, but this is a young kid in a nightmarish hellscape. And now all of a sudden his mother is gone too. So yeah, I think it's going to be hitting Ethan hard, and I wouldn't be too surprised if this scene is just, Boyd trying to console Ethan, to cheer him up a little bit, that we're going to get your mom back, kind of thing.
Yeah. He was kind of already fed up with the Chromonocle stuff and facing the reality of the place that he was in. And that's where, there is a point in everybody's life where you lose that innocence, where you're no longer a kid. So they're not going to be dancing around like saying there's 2 Chromonocles, and making sounds and stuff to entertain him like he was a child. He's gonna physically he's grown up a bit, and emotionally he's gonna be coming to terms with that. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see this new Ethan, but that's one thing, and it'll be very interesting to see how the writers handle that, because one thing is, like, they'll either treat a kid like they're when they write for children, they either treat somebody who's like 10 to 12 like they're 6, like they infantilize them a lot. Right. Yeah, these kids will be making like 80s references like they're a 40-year-old screenwriter or something.
It's tough to adequately portray adolescence sometimes. It's tough even under normal circumstances. And I swear, I feel like that's why so many of the kind of coming to age stories that came out in the 80s and 90s are timeless classics that may never be repeated, because it seems like these days, yes, it seems like it's getting harder and harder for people to kind of convey that journey of adolescence that kids go through. I know, everyone's gone through it, but it's going to be interesting to see how do they portray Ethan in season 3. Will they show him, a little bit more as a kid in that same light? Will they throw a little bit of a rebellious phase into him? We'll see him doing a little bit of that stuff. It'll be interesting to see how the writers, portray Ethan growing up in this place without Tabitha, and how it's going to affect his growth.
Yeah. And they already had the scene where he had locked himself in, when he found out that Sarah was around, and then they went through all that, and they I think they did actually, I liked how they handled that kind of. He eventually did come out, and then they had that his face-to-face confrontation with Sarah, which was cool. And the dialogue was not too far out there. It was pretty composed for a little kid to be able to say that kind of stuff, but it wasn't entirely unbelievable, where he's like, you were out in the forest, only monsters come, live out in the forest. You're a monster.
Confronting Sarah like that. It's one of those things where I could maybe picture a kid doing. Yeah, maybe. But then again, Keith, Ethan, he's got that, he's that mind that he's on some kind of quest. Yes, he has doubts at times as to, how much he believes in that stuff.
Oops, are you roboting? I kind of got you roboting a little bit. Oh, I don't know. Are you hearing roboting, chat? I think we might be losing Jeremy. There was also that scene where he was when he was in the basement with Donna while they were prepping the food. And again, he was like, I don't want to be on, I don't want to be on a quest anymore. I'm scared a little bit. And she gave her little story. Okay. Glue Guns and Roses say they don't hear you at all, Jeremy. But yeah.
What about now? Back home.
Yeah. I got you now, I think.
All right, here we go. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, we got a pretty nice, gnarly storm going out right now. I feel like I'm stuck in fucking Fromville. Yeah, we got a pretty nasty storm going on right now outside the house, so it might screw with the internet every once in a while.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, pretty much it looks like that's all this scene is Boyd probably trying to console a depressed Ethan that his mother is gone. They're sitting on the old merry-go-round there.
Mm-hmm.
Not too much there.
Yeah,
Next, of course, one of the more interesting ones, it looks like Jim and Kenny are going to be finding these weird totem hoodoo little creatures all over the place. And again, at this point, I think we've seen 5 or 6 different individual totems. I mean, there's more than one. I could count out of all of the trailers that we've gotten and now on all of these stills, I counted 5 different ones, maybe 6. 2 of them potentially look like they could be the same. They look very similar. But at the very least, there's at least 5 different totems, maybe 6, or maybe even more. Maybe there'll be more that we haven't seen. And I think these are definitely one of the bigger kind of question marks coming into season 3. And why exactly these things are out there, what exactly is their function and purpose, and why have they never come across them before? And it does look like now that the food shortage is coming around, they're definitely going to have more reason than they ever did in the past to really kind of go deeper into the forest. Because, like we saw in seasons 1, mostly in season 1, the forest was practically just throwing livestock at them. Like Michael DJ said it in the chat earlier, the forest was straight up spawning meat, like it was a damn video game. Which again does point to some of the other potential simulation maybe theories or something along those lines. And I found it very interesting that even the actress who plays Marielle says, asked that very same thing. Is it a simulation? Is it something else? So it seems like, the simulation theory is on some people's minds. I hope this is not a damn simulation. That would be so disappointing just for me personally, unless it's one of those, again, crazy, awesome, unique takes on the simulation thing. That's the only way I would kind of be excited about that. But I really hope this is not a simulation. I really hope we're getting a little bit more into the, supernatural kind of realm with some of the things that we are seeing here. But what exactly are these totems? I mean, when you see these totems, like you said, they're incredibly weird. They're made up of, sticks, branches, berries. And then you look at the face, what the face is exactly made out of. Yeah. And, these things are gnarly.
The previous one, it looked a little more like a real skull. This one looks a little more carved. Yeah. The nose, I mean, the only reason you would have nose, because everybody's seen the skulls and stuff. The nose degrades because it's made out of cartilage, but if it's mummified, it might keep a little shape. That one seems a little more real. It seems like it might be a skull with augmentations. Like the left eye is missing, the right eye has been replaced with something, just like the left eye in that guy in the image was missing, right? The guy drinking the blood. Or drinking out of the skull.
He was missing his right eye as well, the same eye. It almost looks like there's not even a hole for the mouth in the skull. It's completely sealed. It is completely sealed. It's almost like there's no hole for the mouth.
No, the arm looks like an arm bone, but the arm looks like an arm bone, but the vertebrae doesn't look like a vertebrae. It looks like...
I don't think it's a human skull. I think, I don't know what it is, but I think this is something that they're just gathering and making these weird totems. Like this one, looks a little different. It's got that kind of mouth opening, but you look at the shape of it and it's not even shaped like a human skull, really at all. What exactly are these things? I mean, what are they made out of? Is that in any way significant at all? Or what exactly is their purpose? What is their function at the end of the day is what I'm kind of most concerned with. When we see them in the trailer, it seems like there's 3 of them lined up, and right behind them, we can see what we have been calling Cannibal Village. And one of the instant things that came to my mind and many people's minds in the chat, I know you guys had similar ideas, that maybe this could be some kind of alternate form of the talisman, some kind of other alternate form of protection that may be lining these up all around the perimeter of an actual town, keeps the evil out in the way that the talismans keep people out of individual homes.
Okay, yeah.
But or they're maybe just meant to be markers. Maybe they are meant to mark something on a trail, or potentially a sign of warning ahead, a warning of danger ahead. There's so many things about these things that we just don't know. They're super trippy. They're super creepy looking. They look pretty cool. But in terms of their actual function, what are they going to be? We don't really know. So I guess I'll ask the chat and Ravener as well. What do you guys think about these weird totem things? I mean, what do you think they are? What function do you think they might potentially serve? And why exactly are we only seeing them now?
Well, yeah, this is, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to lean more towards like what you're saying. It might be like an area effect kind of talisman, rather than just sealing off an enclosed space. Like the stone ones sealed off an enclosed space. These might serve as, like, say, a 30-foot diameter or 60-foot diameter. So you have to place duplicate ones, if you're going to surround a building or secure an entire plot of land. Because, I mean, we're assuming that Cannibal Village doesn't have talismans to secure their
who knows?
We don't know what is on the inside of them. If there's anything inside of them, they might be ruins, just like like the Martin Tower or anything.
I don't think there's anybody living there. I'd be very surprised if there's people living there, especially now after seeing these stills. It looks like an old ruined town.
Okay, but we do want to believe that these are in the current time, that Kenny and Jim are seeing these in the current time, not a vision of the past. Like, we think that the guy that Jade is seeing, who's drinking from the blood or drinking from the skull, is a vision, at least of the past. But this, I think, we believe is in the current time, and the Cannibal Village or the ruins of those cabins are. But the thing is, I thought, man, I can't remember distinctly, but the Cannibal Village buildings appeared to be of stone at the time, right? Of stone, the wall structure and stuff.
I don't remember seeing stone. Maybe one of the. I think there might have been one stone one, like in the far back, but I remember seeing some log cabins mostly.
Oh, okay. So yeah, they could be. So they might be ruins again. And I mean, I'm only going with what we're being shown from the photos. I mean, that's pretty much all that we can go off of. Again, the wooden wagon wheels with steel tires, and at that time they called them TYRE. They spelled it in the British way, but the steel cladding, the steel shoeing around the outside of the wooden wagon wheel, that didn't happen until after 1775, or at least according to a wagon wheel maker. He said it was the later part of the 18th century, so that's between 1775 or the last quarter of the 18th century. So that's what we know about that. Okay, great, but they're also not brand new. Those tires are those wheels are laying on the ground, not completely decomposed, but also not in a great state of repair. And there's no wagon or carriage to be seen. So that moves the time forward a little bit. It could be 50 years. So it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for it to be the 1864 time period.
Like when Jade and Kenny when Kenny and Jim are seeing these. Or where they originated from, like when they first originated.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't know, like, being completely outside, you'd think if from 1864 to 2021, I guess, where the show is supposed to be 21 or 22, is the time period supposedly that the Fromville people are there. But I don't know if they would be something wooden might be completely degraded, or at least worse weathered. Now the shingles on the thing are covered in moss and stuff. That's a little more believable. But I mean, when you live in a green area. I do not live in a green area, but in a green area where you get plenty of rainfall and everything else.
The rain, the weathering. Yeah. That's another thing, though. I wanted to bring up the weathering, but this is Fromville. They've kind of been stuck in that perpetual state of summer. So if these buildings aren't used to getting hit with expand and contract every year with the cold and then back to the heat, that would maybe preserve them a little bit longer than normal. Okay. But yeah, again, like you said, they're made out of wood. It's all this. At least this one is pretty much all a log cabin. something like that, it can only be so old before it would eventually just collapse, and it would be more of a ruin than an actual structure still. So I do tend to think they're probably around 1800s area, around there, especially after what you mentioned about the wheels here and the lack of metal. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this is, I mean, 1800s kind of time period as to when this town was maybe originally built. We've seen tons of hints to the Civil War era and all the other potential dates that might be in the lighthouse. So just, I mean, and just on the weathering alone, you look at how much this cabin is weathered. This thing is centuries old. It's not decades old. This is centuries old.
So what about and I mean, it's been a long time. It's been 20 something years since I've been where anything green grows, but imagine somewhere in a perpetual growing season, kind of gentle rains, nothing too severe, but blah, blah, blah. I've seen towns that have been abandoned in like the 50s, and they've been almost completely reclaimed by in America, and
sometimes it doesn't take long. Yeah. Sometimes, like you said, nature wants to take these areas back. I mean, we look at all these cities and all these towns that we live in. I mean, hell, look what happens to your lawn if you don't cut the grass for 2 weeks. Nature naturally wants to take the land back. So yeah, I could totally see them maybe not being centuries old, maybe being decades old. Possible.
Okay, maybe, yeah. It's a Victor era. Yeah, that's
maybe. I don't think I think they'll be a little older than that at least.
Okay,
Victor was
older
just,
than the 50s.
I mean, I suppose 78 could be possible, but with 78 only being so many decades ago, I suppose it could be possible. The story's taking place in 2022, so that would be good 50 years or so. So I suppose that could be possible, that 50 years of wear and tear could maybe turn them into something like this. But as Glue Guns and Roses brings up in the chat earlier, it's also, the type of wood also matters a lot. I mean, if this is your average run-of-the-mill timber that they're kind of building these houses out of, that's one thing. But if they're like kind of that good sturdy oak that lasts, it'll last much longer. So definitely the type of wood that they build out of would definitely be a factor. And it's really hard to tell just by I mean, again, it's really hard to tell what wood this is built out of, but it does look a little closer to that kind of timber style wood. It doesn't look like that hard oak. But again, it could be. It could be.
Yep.
It could be.
I learned too much about wagon wheels. Yeah, I did. Yeah, they said usually they made them out of hickory because it's the hardest, but they would use oak or elm, which were also hardwoods, but not as hard as hickory because they didn't want it to split. And then some other stuff about
you want
dishing.
Something that's gonna last.
Yeah,
you want something that's gonna last, especially if you're building out of wood, whether it's the tie, whether the wheels, the house. You don't want to just you certainly don't want to throw up some particle board. That's for sure.
Right. Well, I learned even from the weapons and stuff, like spear shafts and stuff, like made out of elm or ash, mostly ash. But down here, man, the hickory axe handles or hickory like shovel handles and stuff, that's like the American equivalent to what the European, like medieval weapons and spears and whatnot used. I don't know. Yeah, that's my little collection. You know this, Jeremy, but the chat doesn't. Yeah, that's one thing that I do is like collect those medieval
Ravener collects ancient fucking weapons. That's what Ravener does in his spare time. He collects ancient medieval weapons, this guy.
But only like functional ones that were forged, like hard forged out of high carbon steel and stuff. Nothing, not the wall hangers, not the aluminum stuff, not the stainless steel stuff, the Conan swords and stuff like that. Nah, nothing like that. Only the real deal. And when the time comes.
Only the historical stuff. Yeah. Real cool shit. If it's scarecrows, it could give us answers about the ravens. And yeah, they could be scarecrows. I mean, we do see some drawings of scarecrows in some of Victor's drawings, and some of them, you could potentially maybe make an argument that these could be some form of scarecrow. Maybe I could see that potentially. I could definitely potentially see that. See what else we got. They don't have a lot of hair like the Ankui kids. No, they don't. They don't have a lot of hair like the Ankui kids. They got a stick or two and a little bit of berries up there, but that's about it. Totems tend to be markers as warnings to stay away from. This could be either another group of people, an extinct perhaps, the origin of the monsters, and the source of some of Victor's crazy picks. Very, very well could. Yeah, and again, these weird totem things very well easily could be some kind of warning that danger is ahead. You see this totem, you know to turn your ass around. But of course, Jim and Kenny will have no context for what these things are. So if that is the case, they're going to press on and potentially land into some danger. So I like that, Nick. I could see them potentially being some sort of warning of, to not go beyond this point, maybe.
Yeah,
I like
and
it.
How you find out? I mean, just the same way as Boyd found out that the totems, the stone totems, worked as a protection. I mean, imagine being the guy testing this. Doing the field test on these
things. Yeah, the guinea pig.
Yeah, unless they knew something. Maybe it was from a time period where they were more in tune with whatever magical aspect imbues the totems with power. Maybe they understood, or maybe they got some supernatural knowledge, maybe a witch, or maybe somebody explained to them. Maybe they saw a Necronomicon, or they saw they were imbued with this knowledge or given it in some way where if you make this thing, you'll be safe. Because that would be something that I would find unbelievable, that they just suddenly decide to make something this weird and elaborate and think that it's going to work, and then
it protects them. Something would have to lead them to that. That's not something you kind of just come to on your own. The same thing with the talismans. We see these talismans are clearly capable of keeping the monsters out if they're used in the correct manner. But how, who made the talismans? What is the origin of the talismans? Whoever made these things, how did they know that those specific markings would work in that specific way? So,
Right.
yeah, I mean, that seems like knowledge that you would have to be directly guided towards. It doesn't seem like that's something you would just stumble upon by accident. Definitely. But I like this. Could these be the same ruins that Ethan and Julie stumble upon? That was one of my original thoughts as well. When we first saw these whole Cannibal Village thing, like when we only see it in the trailer, it's really hard to tell how old and weathered it is, and a lot of us thought that there might even potentially be people living there still. But now that we're getting a closer look at this place, it does definitely look like it's a little bit more of a ruined settlement. It doesn't look like there's people living here. Again, there could be, but it does give off the impression that it's a little bit more ruined. So yeah, that does come to mind, doesn't it, from downtown? Could this potentially be the quote-unquote ruins that we read about in the synopsis that Julie and Ethan go to visit in, I believe it's episode 7 or 8? And it's very interesting that Julie and Ethan, of all people, it's a very weird pairing to see those two exploring ruins. What exactly is going to prompt them to search out some kind of ruin? What answer are they going to be looking for? And what brings Julie and Ethan on a path like that to begin with? I could totally understand if it was like Julie, Ethan, and Victor, or Julie, Ethan, and Jay. They had somebody else with them there. But just being Julie and Ethan exploring some ruins on their own, nobody else.
Right.
What leads to that, I wonder. But no, this could very well be those same ruins that they look for. Definitely could be.
Cool.
For sure. Robert Saunders has an idea, and I always love hearing Robert Saunders' theories. I posit that the totems are made / carved from the wood of a faraway tree. Ooh, and consequently, they repel the monsters like a talisman. That's interesting, Robert. That's an interesting. I don't think I've heard that one yet. In terms of them maybe being carved from a faraway tree. Like, yeah, maybe this branch came off a faraway tree. These branches and berries and leaves, maybe these things came from a faraway tree, and that's what's giving them their power to repel the evil.
Okay.
That's interesting. And if that is the case, like just operating under the assumption that that is true, I wonder if that means that the monsters are prohibited from using the faraway trees, because I've always wondered that. Are the monsters capable of using these faraway trees? What would happen if a monster went into one of these trees? We saw what happened when Victor dropped a rock in one early in season 1. He's trying to showcase to Ethan how these things work. But from what we know, these destinations seem to be incredibly randomized. So how exactly did Victor know that rock was going to land right there? Was he just kind of hoping that it would land right there? Or do objects travel differently in the faraway trees than people do? Maybe if you drop an object in there, it's always going to kind of land in a spot close to you. But maybe these things were only meant for humans to travel towards. Maybe the monsters can't use the faraway trees, because I've always wondered that. Can a monster use a tree?
Well, that was a weird one too. I mean, even going back to when Victor first showed Ethan the throwing the rock with the smiley face on it. I don't know that I necessarily believe that, because the Victor and Martin were both the ones that said, you know, you could end up in a mountain. But number one, how would you know that? I mean, how would you know that you could end up inside of a mountain? The person who was sent through and ended up inside of a mountain wouldn't be reporting to that, you know, wouldn't be recording that or, you know, telling anybody.
Yeah, it's not like you can report back to your resident faraway tree blueprint manager and say, hey, this one took you into a mountain. No go,
Right.
no go.
Now, what I was kind of curious about is now, and assuming that Victor discovered them when he was a kid, you know, even much younger, and had infinite amounts of time alone to do this stuff. Maybe there's like, what if there's 2 different destinations, or what if there's 3 or 4 different destinations? Maybe none of them actually do lead you inside of a mountain, because again, how would you know if it does that? When he threw that rock in there, it could have just been I mean, if it was just a tree stump or like a hole in a tree, he would have thrown the rock in there, and then there would have been a rock in a hole in a tree. He had to known that it was going to go somewhere. And then, but what if he'd sent Ethan through there? Would Ethan have appeared 30 feet up and dropped to the ground?
Yeah, and just fall into his death. Yeah, that would have been a sight. Oh, I hope not.
Right.
And that's why I'm starting to think that objects maybe travel a little bit differently than people do. That maybe these things were only meant for people to travel from place to place, and that you can't just throw any old object through it, and you can't just have any other creature go through it and it work the same way, maybe.
Okay. Do you think maybe like the boy in white might have an ability to at least for a fixed amount of time, like say, okay,
people go?
Like after the Colony House massacre, he sent Julie and Victor through. They ended up in 2 different places, but at least they didn't end up in dangerous places. Julie ended up in the storm cellar, and Victor ended up down in the tunnels waiting for
pretty
Tabitha.
Dangerous place to be in the tunnels, though. Definitely dangerous to be in the tunnels.
Yeah, that's
and the thing is, and it's always been a little bit sus to me that Boyd and Sarah are traveling closer and closer and closer to this lighthouse. They're finally getting close to this lighthouse. Then all of a sudden, the boy in white just shows up and directs them into a faraway tree where Boyd ends up getting worms caught from. Little sus. But no, that's an interesting question. Can the boy in white, does he maybe control where people go? Or if he doesn't control where people go, does he potentially have these faraway trees mapped out where he knows where one certain person will go if they go in this one, or if this one, or that one? Because I just found it very sus that that the boy in white tends to show up right as Sarah and Boyd were getting super close to that lighthouse, almost like he didn't want Boyd and Sarah there. Definitely wanted Tabitha there. But it seems like maybe he didn't want Boyd and Sarah there. And he says, yeah, this place is angry. You need to get in that tree quick. But if you look around them in that scene, there's not a monster in sight anywhere near them. It didn't look like they were in any imminent danger. But the boy in white made it seem like they were. So I think he just didn't want them getting to the lighthouse. And did he know where Boyd was going to end up?
Although they were saying it was getting dark. They said the storm was getting ready to happen. And technically, when he sent Victor through on the night of the Colony House massacre, the one place that we knew that the monsters weren't is in the caves, because they were all out feasting.
True. But he also told Victor to stay down there to wait for Tabitha as well. And at that point, the monsters were back.
Yeah, that's funny. So he was just sitting there chilling in the dark while they got home.
Yeah, just sitting down there waiting for Tabitha to fall down a hole. Oh, there's my cue. What the fuck happened? But yeah, it's just so many questions around this damn boy in white. What exactly does he want? And is he good? Is he evil? Or does he just simply have his own plan and he'll use the pieces on the board in any way he needs to? I don't know. I don't know. But let's continue these.
Oh yeah.
We see Jim showing up.
I love this. I love doing this. Like going through these like in 4K and like deriving every little piece of a clue that we can get. But yeah, we do need to move on. Here's our body of water and Kenny.
Yeah, I
With
just
this
want to catch
pistol.
a few things in
Oh,
the
sure.
chat. We've got some really awesome stuff in there. I'm trying to catch as much of it as possible. The connections Boyd makes with the talismans and the ballerina seem pretty far-fetched, more like dream logic. I would never make those mental connections. I'd be too scared to think. Yeah, I mean, it is a little bit of a kind of interesting, and I don't know if the ballerina was as much of an influence in that as maybe Martin was. He saw what Martin did in terms of, handing over the worms. Oh, in terms of the talismans, the connection Boyd makes with the talismans and the ballerina. I didn't see any connection from the talismans and the ballerina.
Not between the two, but
I
he did
saw,
assume that the talismans
no.
were going to provide safety because they
He
didn't they
assumed that
didn't
they
they
were
didn't
going to
approach him.
protect them because,
Yeah.
well, and that's another thing. We talked about that last week as well in terms of how did Boyd get from finding these things in that cave to knowing that he had to hang them up and all the doors and windows had to be shut. Like, how did he know the exact circumstances that he would have to employ for these talismans to work? Because when he
Right.
finds them, hell, he's in a hut and there's a huge opening at the hut. I mean, yes,
Yeah.
there's that little bit of brush in between the opening that I suppose could serve as a door.
Mhm.
But how exactly does Boyd go from grabbing these talismans to thinking they protected him to automatically knowing that you have to hang them up on a wall, can't have them on a
Right.
table or anything like that. They specifically need to be hung up on a wall and all the doors and windows need to be shut for them to work. How did he get
Right.
from A to B? Was there trial and error? Was he potentially the guinea pig and tested it out? How did they go from A to B is a big
Right.
question that we don't know, and we may never know that question.
Right. And
Actually.
God knows he didn't sit there and say, "Hey, I found all these things." Because what would have happened? He would have came in there with all those talismans that he bundled together, that he pulled out of the
Yeah.
wall of that little cubby hole, and then taken them. And what would you do? You'd take it to the sheriff's office. You'd set it on the table, and you'd look at them. Look at these weird stones. They got these carvings. I do know this: when I had 20 of them stuck in the wall, then the monsters just walked away and left me completely alone. Now they didn't go to those vines or whatever and like try to coax him out or try to like lure him or anything at all. They just kind of wandered away, like almost like he became invisible. So now where do you make that leap of logic or
How do you
make
go
that
from A
jump
to
from,
B?
yeah, you've got 7 of them or
Yeah.
whatever. And he's given X number to Colony House. Remember, they weren't very friendly. Remember episode 1, they had a very contentious relationship at Colony House, between Colony House and Boyd, to the point where he had to watch
most
Ellis with
likely.
binoculars. Yeah.
Yeah, most likely due to the shooting that Abby did, in my opinion, because we see in the flashback before Abby went on her rampage and shot up the whole town, there was no separation between Colony House and the town. Everybody, it was just one big town. Donna was down there in the town. Donna was literally walking down the street of the town when the massacre happened, when Abby started shooting. So I get the feeling that was the catalyst that split the town into two, where at that point Donna went to Colony House and said, we heard her motto, Colony House is the place for people who want to live every day like it's their last, kind of thing. Whereas the town are the people that want to kind of have more of a structured, normal kind of everyday living, similar to what they had when they were home. So I do think that's what separated them to begin with, because they were at odds a little bit. Boyd, like you said, Boyd walks up to Colony House and Donna's like, "You shouldn't be up here, Boyd."
Right.
So there was some tension there between Colony House and the town. There was almost like they were two totally different factions, and I mean, I think that could potentially be the catalyst that split them up. The shooting of Abby's shooting at the town.
And that situation had been in place for long enough for them to need to the elaborate choosing ceremony. They had to decide, where you're going to. There had to be enough people coming in. Yeah, it had to get to the point where enough new people had come in where they said, "Well, how are we going to handle new people?" And then come up with their elaborate choosing ceremony where everybody gathers. Together, everybody from both sides gathers around
and you just
and
give the
witness.
Arrivals a choice. Where do you want to live, A or B?
So it's weird.
And it seems like it seems like it worked for a while. It seems like that worked. I mean, because when we get to that first episode before Megan and Frank get killed, we saw that they were 96 days without an incident. So it seemed like for a little bit, at least for 3 months or so, things were working. I mean, Colony House was doing their thing, the town was doing their thing, and people weren't dying on a nightly basis. Again, 3 months without a death. that's a pretty good stretch considering all of the deaths we've seen in the course of 1 month from season 1 and 2. How much time has passed? Maybe a month at best. So yeah, I mean, it was working. Whatever caused it, whatever happened with that split, however they were however they were functioning as a town, it was working for a while. And then, of course, we have the 2 cars arrive at once, which Victor instantly recognized that something was a bad omen of things to come. And that is pretty much what kicks our story off. So I find it very interesting that Boyd being in this town for 3 years isn't really what started the story. The story doesn't start until the Matthews family show up and Jade. So that's why I think they're going to be incredibly important. I think Boyd's incredibly important as well. But I do think ultimately the Matthews family are meant to be the main characters of the show.
Yeah. And it kind of leads me to think, which is strange, now that we're bringing it all up, the 96 days since the last death, or since the last person died, if we're going on the 1-to-1 theory, which I think Robert said that it was 31 to 31 after 31 in, 31 out kind of thing. So the last people to have died would have been 96 days prior, or the last people to have arrived, at least. It was 96 days since the last death.
And potentially arrived.
Yeah, and Sarah told Elgin that she'd been there a few months. So
only been there a few months.
Yeah. But how long was Christy? Christy indicated how long she. Oh, okay.
Christy was there for 6 months. Yeah.
Okay. I wonder. So if Sarah,
Sarah and her brother could have been the most recent arrivals before the Matthews family and Jade, maybe. So, no, you're right.
Which would have been weird because look at everybody who's having visions and hallucinations. It's Sarah, it's Ethan,
all people that have showed up recently,
and Elgin. Yeah, interesting.
That have showed up recently. Yeah, because it does. I mean, again, Boyd was in this town for a very long time, and everything was fine. It's not until the Matthews family and Jade show up where the shit just really starts to hit the fan. So I do think their arrival is what kicked everything off, is what started this domino effect. And I think that's why Victor instantly recognized it. He saw 2 cars arriving, and he probably remembers the last time 2 cars arrived, bad things happened. And he was right. He was right. In other words, the totems may keep an evil entity trapped inside a prison inside their circle. Now, that's also a very interesting possibility as well. I mean, we're thinking of them in the sense of maybe keeping evil out. But what if it's the opposite, Bill? Yeah. What if that is meant to keep evil inside its perimeter? That's an interesting thought too. I like that.
Right. And imagine, I mean, just like the why the monsters can't pass through a faraway tree. What if they passed through and ended up in somewhere that was secured with the stone? Yeah. I mean, what if it goes into somewhere like the storm cellar, although they haven't secured the storm cellar with the totem. Or with the talisman. What if it ended up in the church? If we believe that Sarah ended up in the church after she went through the faraway tree, and we know that the church is secured with a talisman, imagine a monster passing through a faraway tree and ending up in the basement of a place that's secured with the talisman. Then they're locked inside, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Are they locked inside, or is it as simple as they have to walk up to that to the talisman, throw it off the wall, and they can walk out the door? It's hard to know.
Okay, true.
And that's the thing about these damn talismans. There's so much about them that we don't know. We know that they can keep evil out, but is there some potential way that they could maybe use these talismans? Maybe if they utilize multiple of them at once, to fashion some kind of trap to keep them in. I actually did a video on that during season 1. It was one of the first From videos I actually ever did, And you guys check it out. I had a pretty interesting tinfoily theory as to how the talismans could potentially be used to trap a monster, was the premise of the video. My idea is, I missed it. Sorry. I want to catch that. Where was I? I never thought about there not being a courthouse or anything like that. Interesting. Yeah, the sheriff is just a post office. Yes, indeed. Yes, the sheriff office is really a post station. The medical clinic is really an elementary school. It seems like they're makeshifting all of these other buildings, for a totally different purpose. Even the bar is like a garage or something like that, like an old gas station. I believe the bar is as well. So yeah, they're repurposing a lot of these buildings to, fit the needs that that the town needs, pretty much. But yeah, why is there no, like you said, why is there no courthouse? Why is there no this? Why is there no that? What happened to the hotel as well? A lot of questions. The talismans could just be a trick. I rewatched the scene from the RV in episode 1 and 2. The glass was broken and they had a piece of cloth that didn't really cover the space, and it worked. That one always kind of bugged me out a little bit too, Grumbledore. I was always a little bit weirded out by that. I'm like, is Boyd really hanging up this blanket because he really thinks this is going to serve as a door? And I suppose it's possible. I mean, because when you look at what he fell into, where he originally finds the talismans, the little bit of brush that is covering the entrance barely covers it. I mean, it's certainly not, airtight or anything like that. It barely covers the entrance. You could stick a freaking hand right through it. So yeah, it's a little bit weird as to what exactly is the definition of a door where these talismans are concerned. Is it like a sturdy door, or is it something as simple as laying a damn sheet up? I don't know.
Right. Well, and Boyd made it very clear that he was not at all certain that it was going to work.
He wasn't sure. Yeah.
And the thing is, if it didn't work, all of them would be dead. Him and everybody inside. So that was a huge gamble.
Yeah, all of them completely slaughtered. Yeah, it was a risky move. It was a risky move indeed. The shape of the talismans are odd, kind of reminiscent of the roots of the root symbol when it appears to Jade, like it was plucked right from there. Ooh, interesting. Interesting indeed. And we also got a $9.99 super chat from Crazy Mad. Thank you so much, Crazy Mad, for the $9.99. Thank you, man. Julie and Ethan definitely strike out to find their mom after they tell them to F off. Also, good to see you, Ravener and Jeremy, you sweethearts, but also the manliest of men. Well, thank you for that, Ravener.
Yeah, thank you, Crazy Man.
Thank you so much. And I will begrudgingly give you a new and improved and less, much easier on the ear. Whoa.
Awesome. Yeah, and we got over. Hey guys, hit the thumb if you would please. Get this out there to other huge fans of Froms. In the coming weeks we're going to be breaking this down on a weekly basis. Just what we can see, what we know for sure, trying to extrapolate what we know without a whole lot of there's no way to avoid guesswork though, because right now we are just theorizing. Again, we're looking
guesswork really at this point.
This huge body of water that we've never seen before. But again, there's trees in the background, so it appears to be more like a pond or a lake than a opening out into the open sea.
And that's the thing. It doesn't look like it connects to any bigger, larger body of water. I suppose it could. I mean, we're really only seeing a small portion of it. Who knows how big and where this thing goes? But I think at the very least, I think at the very least, it's not the Brundles. I think that much is clear. This doesn't look anything like the surroundings of the Brundles. It looks like it's a totally different body of water.
Right.
But yeah, how big is it? Is it just this kind of pond lake thing, or does it potentially connect to something bigger? I don't know. I get the feeling it's probably just a pond. But it seems to be a new location at the very least. And that's one thing I'm really excited about season 3. It looks like we're finally starting to visit some new locations, around Fromville. And that's one thing I've been dying to see more of ever since season 1. Map this place out. Find out what is really out there. You need to know your surroundings. Until they know where they are, not exactly where Fromville is, but until they know what else is out there in the forest, they're never going to be able to get ahead in this place in terms of really finding answers and really maybe finding a way out. You need to know where you are before you can escape from where you are. So I'm glad that they're starting to kick this world open a little bit more in season 3 and showing us some new locations.
Like Xavier says, the Lake of Tears. Again, I'm going into 4K and you're looking at this. So again, he's got his winter gear. The ground is clear. He's got a ground cloth, not something like a pad or something that you would sleep on, but no sleeping bag that we can see. So this might correlate to his little one-liner that he leaked even before the first trailer came out, where he said something like, we'll be right back. What could go wrong or something like that.
What could go wrong?
We'll be back before
something like that.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime someone says something like that, damn well something's going to go wrong. So good job, Kenny.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Lake of Tears. Who knows? Maybe this is Lake of Tears. Lake of Tears related. I don't know. Could be. Could very well be.
But very calm, very calm water,
guys.
still water, no waves or like a bigger. I mean, even like a Lake Michigan or something would have a certain amount of waves involved. So this looks like it could be a big body of water, but not or maybe just the weather's calm that day too. But man, that looks still.
Yeah, it looks pretty still. Not a whole lot of choppiness going on there, which does kind of lean a little bit more into it being a pond or a lake. But yeah, I guess we're going to find out in 12 fucking days. 12 days, ladies and gentlemen. Well,
feel it in my plums. I feel it in my plums.
I can feel it down in my plums as well. I mean, you can just feel this show deep down
in the plums.
In your plums.
Tired? Really? Can you feel the tension in the air right now? I know I can. I can feel it all the way down in my plums, getting all swollen with a light blue hue to them, fresh and juicy, ready for the picking. All the school children are
Can feel it in the plums now, ladies and gentlemen. It is closer and closer. All right, let me catch up with a little bit of you guys, and we will continue on these stills. So was the banging on the floor of the RV, the monsters banging from the caves? That was something we talked about the other night as well. It's incredibly hard to know what that banging was. Nothing makes sense. The only thing I could think of is, I mean, it's a once in a, it's a really it's very improbable for the RV to have fallen onto one of the entrances or the exits to one of the caves. The chances of that are very unlikely, but that's kind of the only explanation I could think of at the time as why this banging is coming from the floor when they know there should be nothing under them, that the RV is tipped over on the ground. That's the only thing I could think of, is that maybe it kind of landed on one of the cave entrances or exits, and it was either the monsters or something knocking from the caves, but I don't know. Or maybe it was just the entity playing tricks on them. Could have just been the entity screwing with their head, pretty much. That would be terrifying if the monsters are just pretending that the talismans work until they don't. Let the people get complacent, then bam. That's a very. I've actually really enjoyed these discussions that have been coming up recently, and I think you guys are thinking of some very interesting things that could be incredibly scary when season 3 comes around. Because, like you said, that they've come to rely on these talismans so much up until this point. It's literally the only thing keeping them alive is the talismans. But if the monsters were playing this big elaborate ruse, only pretending that these talismans work, I mean, I don't think that's the case personally, but I do think that would be one hell of a holy shit, let's pull the rug out from underneath them kind of moments if that was the case. But yeah,
if terror, if fear and uncertainty was the goal of the town or whatever, having that be the rug pull, having them find out that the one thing that they had hope in working, or that they took for granted.
Exactly.
So, and that kind of leads
for so long that it's just I mean, to them it's like the key to your house. I mean, it's probably just so normal to them now. So like you said, are they becoming too complacent, as Leah says? Maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the thing is, I mean, that would almost definitely lean to the monsters not having their own agency. But and I think we've kind of guessed that when the big bad, whatever was knocking on the RV and the monsters walked away, that the monsters are subject to something else. They either take commands or take prompts from something else. So maybe this is the part of a long game by the big bad that like, oh yeah, you guys. They have these talismans up. Somehow they
nope.
Don't go attack. Yeah, don't go attack while the talismans are up. Somehow they have to know where the talismans are and that they work. But yeah, and then don't attack until I give you the go ahead to do so. So that, I mean, it's pretty elaborate. I mean, it's definitely a long con, definitely an elaborate trick, but it would be quite the trick indeed if it came through. So that's a kind of a cool idea, for sure. Yeah, I'm kind of torn, man. The chat's banging, and also we want to get through the picks, but the chat's coming up with great ideas.
Yeah, I'll breeze through and catch up on the chat a little bit here, and then we will continue on these picks. Let me see what some of you guys are saying, though. Let's see. Keeping my fingers crossed for your channel. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Julie B, definitely. I think Julie B is going to absolutely kill it, and her link is in the description if anybody wants to sub to her channel. Large body of water. Cabins tend to be near fishing area. Town may divide like in Lost for a source of food or town. Now that could be a very interesting possibility that you see the town maybe split and go their separate ways at some point. One thing I've always thought was interesting though was the vision that Tabitha has at the end of season 1, and we see. I mean, a lot of people pay attention to her walking up the steps of the lighthouse portion of her vision. But one thing I've always thought was very interesting was the first part of that vision, when it's her seemingly walking down the street of Fromville, looking around, looking very puzzled. And part of me thought it'd be a very interesting storyline if Tabitha does eventually make it back into Fromville, only to find an empty town, that the town had to kind of migrate somewhere else and they're not living in the main town anymore. I just feel like it would add such an interesting twist to Tabitha's return. She goes through all of this crazy stuff to try and get back to her family, only to get back to a town that is completely empty, and now she has to figure out where they have gone. And who knows, maybe these settlements could potentially provide an answer for that. If the town ever becomes unsafe for whatever reason, they at least have some kind of backup that they could potentially go to in that event, because after the town, the only thing that would be even close to kind of housing people is this village that we're seeing. There's nothing else out there that they could live in unless they wanted to just build something from scratch in the woods, which is highly unlikely. So yeah, if something were ever to happen at the town that they would have to flee, Cannibal Village might be a secondary backup place that they might have to go. And as you mentioned, Nick, large body of water right near it, cabins right there. Could that maybe have been some kind of small fishing village at one point, decades or centuries ago? Maybe.
Okay. And the thing is, I mean, if that were to come true, I mean, because what we know now, like the scene you're talking about in the lighthouse, that was all a dream. That was all part of a dream. So that would take it from, if Tabitha does end up somehow returning to Fromville, and it is in that vacant state, because it was very weirdly shot too, because it looked like they were running the film backwards a little bit, but then they were also rotate while she was walking backwards, the camera was rotating from behind her towards the front of her. If I remember, the camera rotation was not in sync with how it was revolving around her in a way that was different than the direction she was walking. I didn't see any bodies in or anything in the background or anything, so it didn't look like she was dropping into anything with a massacre or anything. But what that would do, though, is anchor some sort of time travel or some sort of dimensional travel or some kind of something, because right now all that is just a dream sequence. It could have had, I mean, of course we know everything has significance, but right now it was purely part of a dream. If she ever revisits that, comes back from the hospital and ends up in the same clothing, and of course, we're going to match up the clothing that she's wearing and whatnot. If she ever even changes into the clothing at any point in season 3, if she changes into the same clothing that she's wearing in that dream, and man, it was a fraction of a second, maybe like 2 or 3 seconds of screen time, but we have but anyway, my point being is, it is right now it's just a dream. It was part of a dream sequence, the same dream sequence where she heard the train sound and then, or foghorn or whatever it was, with the light, and Jim hanging upside down from whatever it was, spider webs or vines or wires or whatever he was hanging upside down from. All that was part of and all the numbers, all the dates scrawled, not even in Tabitha's field of view, mind you, as she was walking up those stairs. She never saw any of those.
Tabitha may have not even seen the dates. Those dates might have solely been for our benefit as the audience, because like you said, not only is it a dream for her, but she's got her back to those numbers the whole time. So she might not have seen the numbers. I mean, there's a slight, small chance when she turns around and looks up at Jim that maybe she could have got a glimpse of them, but she would have been so preoccupied with looking at Jim at that point that she would have been able to make heads or tails of any kind of scribbling in front of her. So there's a very good chance that she didn't even see those dates. That was just for our benefit, maybe.
Right.
But yeah,
it'll tell us a lot if it goes from being purely a dream to whatever it does become, if she ever actually revisits that scene in what's supposed to be a real life, or if she has the same dream again, in a different context from a different angle, who knows? Yeah. But but what we will know is that it'll be happening after she went through the lighthouse. So she'll either be having the same dream twice. It's either a recurring dream, or it's a dream that not just a dream, it became a premonition of something that's going to happen. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe Tabitha will have to go to the lighthouse again at some point. Who knows? Maybe the vision that she saw there wasn't even meant to be her first trip to the lighthouse. Maybe she'll have to go there again at some point. Maybe Jim gets taken captive there. I mean, we see Jim strung up there. Maybe that was a premonition of Tabitha trying to go rescue Jim, even. Who knows? But yeah, I think the lighthouse is going to be a pretty permanent fixture within the context of the show. I definitely don't think we've seen the rest of the lighthouse, especially considering they built a 30 by 30 foot massive replica of that lighthouse. You don't build a practical set like that if you're only planning on using it for 1 or 2 scenes. That is a permanent kind of fixture, kind of set that you would spend that kind of money on. So I think we're going to see a lot more of the lighthouse. And yeah, as Nick L says, the cave drawings, showed people boating in. At one point, yes, it seems like people may have arrived in Fromville via boat. We see those cave drawings. It's a small boat with 3 people in each boat, and it almost looks like they're arriving in Fromville. This could be near the lighthouse or the ocean. Yeah, I guess we'll have to find out. Is there some kind of lighthouse nearby? Maybe is the lighthouse nearby from that body of water that Kenny sees? Who knows? I wonder if they need to use faraway trees for the boats to leave. That's an interesting question as well. Who knows? Jim was stuck in a tree. Very first episode, season 1, when the very first episode of the season. 2, he's stuck in wood again. I wonder if it's something to that. Yeah, it's an interesting point. I mean, yeah, we see him stuck in the RV, and he's kind of pinned right up against his chair with that branch, literally right next to him, almost impaled his ass, that branch. And then, yeah, we see him kind of pinned once again by the house at the beginning of season 2 when the house collapses on him. What's up with wood pinning Jim down? Are they trying to tell us something? I don't know. The monsters are definitely keeping the people in their homes at night. At most, they are there to keep them from exploring at night. And that's an interesting possibility, Vic. I mean, are the monsters in themselves like you said, a deterrent from keeping them from going out into the forest too much? That's an interesting idea, Vic. I mean, I think that could very well be possible. Like you said, now that they know that these monsters, they're used to this kind of the comings and goings of the town. They know how things work up until this point. They know they're relatively safe during the day, and they know these monsters come out at night. But just the very fact of them knowing the monsters come out at night, that information alone is definitely enough to keep them from wandering too far. Right, so that's an interesting idea, Vic. I kind of like that. Maybe that's what the monsters' purpose is. It's their purpose is to keep them in the town and not wandering too far. That's a very interesting possibility.
The most you could do is a day trip, or half of it a day trip, because you know that you got to get back.
I mean,
and that's why that's why Sarah and Boyd going in a tent was rare, right? That was something never been done. Yeah,
I imagine that was probably the first time they've tried using a talisman in just a tent like that, and we saw something grab that tent and dragged it the hell, Lord knows who or what. Was it a monster that dragged the tent? Was it the boy in white? Was it a giant spider, as some think it was? I don't know. And it's little answers like that I'm not sure we'll ever get answers to. Like, again, with the whole, it's kind of become a meme at this point with the whole, how did Martin drop the rope down to Boyd, yada, yada. Right. And as funny as it is, as puzzling as it kind of is, it's little answers like that I wouldn't be too surprised we never really get any explanation on. But I really want to find out what was dragging that tent. That one has been bugging me ever since the beginning, because it's not really clear what was dragging them, if it was trying to help them or harm them. Because strangely enough, whatever was dragging that tent, the next morning they wake up and they are within, almost spitting distance of the lighthouse. The lighthouse light is shining on them the very next morning when they wake up. So whatever dragged the tent, it seems like it dragged them closer to the lighthouse, not further away from it, almost like it wanted them to find the lighthouse, whatever dragged that tent.
But they were also covered
with
the Abby Spider vision that gave Boyd, because Boyd, on the approach to the lighthouse, Boyd was still really messed up from the spider venom. And he didn't think he could go that much farther on. Which is another strange thing.
Dragging that tent could have easily killed them if it wanted to. I mean, even if the talisman was keeping them safe at that point, the talisman falls off as soon as that tent starts to drag. So whatever was dragging that tent, if they wanted to kill Boyd and Sarah, I imagine they could have done it very easily. That's why I'm not convinced they were trying to harm them. I kind of think they were maybe trying to get them closer to the lighthouse, just based on the light literally shining on them the very next morning. That thing dragged them closer to it, I think. And I think it was for a reason. I think they wanted, whatever that was, wanted Boyd to find the lighthouse.
Yeah, and a lot of those revelations really came in short order too, because I mean, we went from the Matthews RV hanging up the cloth where Boyd had no certainty that the talismans would protect to, I mean, obviously once that worked, I think he felt a little more confident that the talisman would protect an enclosed tent, because the tent was still better, more of a shelter than what he had. But all those decisions were being made very quick, because I mean, the Matthews arrived, Sarah tried to kill Ethan and became a pariah, and then Boyd and Sarah went on their adventure while she was a pariah. All that stuff happened in pretty short order, and the decisions that Boyd is making, like, okay, well, I wasn't even sure that a cloth could protect the inside of the RV, to we'll go out on a at least an overnight, if not multi-night adventure, to see something. They don't know what they were looking for, but they were looking for whatever they could find. It's kind of neat how things went so fast and those decisions were made. This writers, man, even when I second guess some of the pacing and some of the stuff, they seem to have their S together,
Yeah, they got a plan. It seems like they know where they're going, and it's very exciting. It definitely fills me with confidence that this show is going to have, a good ending and a good story and a good payoff, because it does seem like they know what they're doing here. Have we discussed why everyone is out at night? It looks like it's a lot of them. I mean, why would Tien Chen with her little self be out there? Sorry, I'm here a little late. No problem at all. And no, we haven't really touched on that tonight. But I do think there's a few different possibilities. I think the most interesting possibility, I think, is a little bit of a giveaway with the livestock being out at night. We see the cows are out. We see behind Tien Chen, we see Victor actually walking one of the goats. And you would wonder what would draw the people out of their houses at night? What would make them risk something like that? And the only thing I could think of is, with this crazy food shortage hitting the town, this livestock has never been more important to them than it is right now. And I wouldn't be too surprised if the livestock either maybe gets out on their own, or maybe even the monsters themselves let the livestock out in order to draw the humans out of their house at night. Because we do hear a very interesting reference in the season 3 trailer when Boyd says, quote unquote, "It was an ambush." And Donna says, "How many did you save?" So it seems like they are going to be getting ambushed by someone or something. And I get the feeling it is going to be the monsters that are setting this ambush for them. And I think the two possibilities are either the livestock possibility, where the monsters are using the livestock getting out as an opportunity to ambush these survivors. Like you said, why else would Tien Chen of all people be out there at night, unless it was kind of an all hands on deck situation? They had to do everything they could to scramble and get this livestock put away as quick as possible. And then you look at episode 4 as well, when the ambulance arrives. And obviously the ambulance arrives at night, which is going to be very, very cool to see. We have yet to see a nighttime arrival on the show yet. We've heard of them. We hear about what happened to Donna when she arrived here in Fromville at night. Boyd arrives just as it's starting to get dark, but we haven't seen anyone outright arrive here in Fromville in the dead of night. And that could potentially also be another explanation for this quote unquote ambush, because we also see in the trailer Boyd looking for the keys to the ambulance, and then all of a sudden, boom, a monster is on his ass, freaking wiggling the keys in front of him.
Yeah. Can you
And
move
at some point, these monsters are going to grab up Boyd and bring him into the barn. So he is going to get ambushed and taken captive by these monsters at some point. If it's not during the livestock debacle, it will be during if it's not during the livestock thing, it will probably be during the ambulance arrival. It's definitely going to be one of those 2 episodes, I think.
Yeah, and there's nothing to say that like how many did you save could be how many of the cattle and how many of the sheep did you save, not just the people.
Exactly.
Do we have the screenshot? Do we have the new shots of those because it looked like there was a sheep in front of the cow? Oh yeah, in your background.
We got all of those. Yeah, let's breeze through these. So this one, nothing too much here. Tabitha looking out of the same hospital window that we see at the end of season 3. Same old, same old. Here we have Donna. This part we did actually already see in the season 3 trailer. This is when Donna comes up to Boyd and says, "We're out of food," and she's holding the rotten food in her hand. Not a whole lot there we haven't seen. This is an interesting one. We see Randall with a goat. And there's either 2 possibilities. I can only think of 2 possibilities. Randall is actually trying to be of some kind of help in the town, or the food shortage is getting so bad that he's willing to go and steal a fucking goat. Because next thing we know, we have Boyd and Ellis seemingly confronting him. And it looks like it's a bit standoffish here. So I wouldn't be too surprised if Randall's trying to steal this fucking goat because he knows the food shortage is getting bad here in Fromville.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can see Randall being like, you know what? If it's one thing if everybody else starves, that doesn't mean I have to starve.
Yeah, exactly.
This is walking meat. Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, it's going to be interesting because, again, we hear some of the dialogue in the season 3 trailer telling Boyd telling everyone that we need to stick together. They will not break us. So maybe this is Boyd trying to kind of talk Randall off the ledge as he's trying to steal a goat for his own gain, maybe.
Right. Well, I mean, what's he going to do? Put it in that bus with them and keep it?
Exactly. You're going to keep it in the damn bus? What are you going to do with that goat, Randall? Shit, that's going to stink up the joint. What are you thinking? Unless he's just planning on slaughtering it right away and just, using it for meat as long as he possibly could. I don't know, but
we do notice the garbage can that's with the fire, like almost like a bum thing. I wonder if people are. No, I wonder about that. I mean, does that mean that they didn't really have provisions for heating their homes either? They've always had fair weather. It's one thing to have the plants and stuff die, the seasons change, all the things, having to wear heavy clothing, whatnot, when you're outdoors and whatnot. But if you've never had to accommodate your home, I mean, does the gas heating and that kind of stuff work the same way as the electricity? Is it just automatically provided, or why do they have a unless this is just like a town meeting outside and they started burning a barrel just so that some people could stay warm while they wait and have a chat. It's kind of strange.
Yeah. I mean, it's considering that it's right next to the stables. Maybe it's just meant to keep people warm as they work. I don't know. I'm not sure. Okay. Quick little hand warmer. Let's warm up around the bum trash can fire.
Right. They just need fingerless gloves.
Yeah, some fingerless gloves. Yeah, you're good to go. But next we see a pretty interesting one. This one, again, another angle of a scene that we've already seen in the trailer of Ethan opening up the door for the granny monster. And we're all wondering why exactly he would do that. Why would he just open this door for the granny monster? We know it's nighttime. It looks dark out. The lights are on in the house. So it does look like this is nighttime, obviously, and the monsters are out. So why is he opening up the door? And again, I know a lot of us have come to similar conclusions that maybe Ethan thought it was Tabitha knocking on the door. Maybe that's why he was so eager to not even look and just opened it. We do see off that earlier still that Ethan does look like he's going to be very despondent and depressed now that Tabitha is gone, based on that shot we see of him and Boyd. So maybe Ethan hears a knock on the door and kind of just thinks it's his mother. Or some people have even mentioned that maybe the granny is mimicking Tabitha's voice. That would be a nice, interesting trick. We haven't really seen them mimic anyone's specific voice yet, but that's not to say they can't. I mean, who knows? Who knows what the extent of their abilities are?
Yeah, and she did. Yeah, she told Megan that she was the granny told Megan that she was her grandma, and she said, "You're not my grandma." Knew it. Yeah, she knew it
Yeah, she knew
intuitively.
that it wasn't really her grandmother,
Yeah, that
but
one
for
I
some
also thought it
reason
was
she still
weird.
managed to.
Yeah, what I thought was strange was and we thought that maybe day became night as a result of an eclipse. That's why the monsters are out in what
Maybe.
should be the
Yeah.
daytime. But Ethan was also
Hmm.
wearing his heavy coat too. So
True.
was it actually nighttime? Because the light was on, the light in the hallway was on. So Ethan is wearing a heavy coat. Do they not have heat at all in their homes? Was it actually
Maybe. I
nighttime?
mean,
And yeah.
even Julie's got a bit of a sweatshirt on there as well. So, yeah, I mean, what is their heating situation going to be like in this place? I mean, this place has never really needed heat up until this point because it's always been in that perpetual state of summer. So,
Yeah,
yeah, that's a good point. I mean, we know that the harsh conditions are going to be tough on them, but how tough are they going to be if they don't have, some form of heating in these individual houses? Then yeah, this winter is going to hit them way harder than it would in any other circumstance. So maybe
Right.
they don't have heat, and that's why they have the coats on inside. They need to stay warm.
Yeah, or maybe he
I
just
guess we'll
threw
have
it
to look
on in
out.
the second before he opened the door. I don't, you never know. It could be a coat rack
Who knows?
right
Well, maybe
there.
they
He thought,
just got home.
yeah,
Maybe they just recently got through the door. It just started to get dark, and it's such a trippy scene. I mean, you would think
right,
Ethan would know by now to not open this door.
right.
Considering he knows the rules. He's not too young of a kid that he doesn't know the danger here. So this is one of those scenes I'm really looking forward to seeing because it's
Yeah, see
hard to
how it
know
pans
exactly
out.
what is going on. Yeah, how's
Exactly.
that going
And
to
it's
pan
it's
out?
it's going to be one of those crazy things where we can extrapolate, we can guess about what the significance is, and then it'll be literally 5 seconds of screen time in the episode that it fits into, and everything will be answered beginning to end. But it's
Yeah,
so cool to be able to guess, oh, what does this mean? Why is it this way? But that's what I love about the guesswork in with this show is we can,
exactly. Yeah,
you know we're
that's
we're
what's fun
writing our
about
own
diving into
story.
this thing. Is trying to see what's going to happen, and then when it actually happens, how close or how off were we? That's the fun of this show, because I can't think of any other show that I watch that I kind of really dive this deep into. This is one of those shows that requires that kind of deep dive. It challenges you as a viewer. Whereas
Yep.
some shows, you kind of just watch them and you completely forget that show even exists until the next week and the following episode comes around. This is something else entirely. This is one of those shows that I'm always thinking about, especially now that we're
Absolutely.
getting so close. Ethan is annoying as fuck. He talks he talks to his parents like he's the adult. He does a little bit. I mean, I like Ethan. I think Ethan's been. I like season one Ethan a lot. I like a lot of the kind of chronological stories that he was laying out and how they could potentially be allegories for characters on the show. Like Tabitha potentially being the Chromononcle, Jade or Victor maybe being the Lonely Dragon. There's some interesting parallels between some of his stories and some of these characters. So I like Ethan. I think he's going to have an interesting part to play. I hope that Randall is not trying to rip off our peeps. I have hope for him. Yeah, it's going to be, again, what's Randall going to do? I mean, we saw what happened to him at the end of season 2. Him, Mari, and Julie, they all get possessed by this cicada entity and thrown in this cicada coma. Now that they wake up, what exactly are they going to be like? How much are they even going to remember for their time under? And is there going to be any kind of residual side effect for them being in that coma-like state? Are there
Right.
going to be some trauma that they're going to have to deal with? Because one of the episode synopsis specifically states that Julie, in particular, is going to be dealing with some kind of trauma this season. Now, is that trauma from something new that is going to happen in season 3? Or is the trauma going to be related to her being possessed by that cicada entity? Are there going to be some kind of side effects, some residual effects that they didn't envision? Are the cicadas fully gone? I have a feeling they're not. I mean, I get the feeling something, Julie, Randall, and Mari, I get the feeling something might still not be inside them, or at the very least, the after effect of something being inside them, maybe causing some of Julie's trauma. Because we also get a very interesting synopsis later on where, of all people, Randall and Mari are spending time together.
Okay.
So I think, and we specifically hear Randall say, everyone's running around here worried about dying. But I don't think death is the worst thing that can happen to you here. And if anybody knows that death isn't the worst thing here, it's Julie, Randall, and Mari, considering what they went through. I would rather die than be in some kind of cicada-like entity taken over by this weird creature. So
Right.
Randall knows firsthand that there are things here that are worse than death. So maybe
Yeah.
there'll be
Yeah.
some residual effects to whatever happened to them.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, like being possessed, not being in control of yourself. I mean, I mean that is the ultimate loss of yourself if somebody else is controlling you or can take you over at at random times or whatever. So, but it's another thing on the meta side of it. It seems like if that is true, if there's going to be a continuing effect of the cicadas on those, the writers are really putting a lot of investment in 3 kind of not very popular characters. I mean, Julie was kind of a lump. Her plot lines never really got going necessarily, I guess. They had her little connection with Elgin on the porch while he's sitting in the barber chair. Marielle, crazy unpopular, and Randall, I mean, he was written as a dickhead, so he's of course, and we always thought that he was going to have a hero turn, like an arc, a redemption arc that turned him from. Think so?
I think he might still. Maybe not. He could, he could continue to going on to being the same old dickhead Randall that he always was. But part of me thinks eventually, maybe not even this season, but I think eventually Randall will have some sort of redemption, if not a full-on redemption arc, at least some kind of redemptive act where maybe he ends up sacrificing himself to save someone else or puts himself in danger to save somebody else. I haven't given up on Randall 100% yet. I'm trying to hold on to some hope for him, I guess.
If he's stealing a goat in this one, and yeah, he's.
Yeah, I mean, stealing a goat sucks. I mean, but it's not really that egregious of a thing considering the circumstances. Looking at the food shortage, Boyd is going to have to anticipate that people are going to be making stupid decisions like that. Yeah. People make incredibly dumb decisions when they are afraid. We saw what happened with Dale stabbing Ellis in season 2 because of the food shortage.
Right.
So him stealing the goat, although it's a dickhead move, it's definitely a dickhead move. Him stealing the goat, it's not as egregious as some of the things that. Yeah, it's not as egregious as some of the things that Sarah's done or some of the other characters. But welcome, Strega. It is good to see you. I'm so sorry to hear that you were sick. I hope you are feeling better. And it's awesome to see you back in the chat. I hope you are getting well. Golden Child says, what if the monsters can manipulate your thoughts unless you're not scared? That's an interesting possibility. I mean, it was very weird how the monsters tried to kind of tempt Randall, but they instantly kind of just give up and walk away. And was that because he wasn't showing any fear? Maybe the more fear you show, like you said, the more they're able to kind of manipulate you. That's an interesting thought, Golden Child, and you could be onto something there, because we do see some evidence of Randall showing no fear and then the monsters just losing interest in him. Hell, Randall was trying to call the monsters back to him and they just kept walking away.
Right.
So yeah, you could be onto something there.
Yeah. See you later.
There.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jen, she brings it right up here. Jen Hack.
Yeah, Julie and that monster guy who said, you remember me, Julie, makes me think the monsters can mess with people's minds. And I do think there is a certain degree of that, or at the very least, they're using these kind of mind manipulation tactics on the survivors. Because there was a very interesting thing that the actress who plays Julie said in one of the behind-the-scenes clips, where she specifically says that the monster takes the form of someone from her high school to trick her. So I always thought that was very weird. We haven't really seen any other circumstances like that where the monsters were taking on specific forms of people that they knew from their old life. Now, was that just a misinterpretation from the actress who was playing Julie? Maybe it was just more along the lines of this thing is taking the form of something that Julie might think might have been a high school member, a classmate. Because that was very interesting to hear the actress say that specifically, that this thing is taking on the form of someone she went to high school with to trick her. But I'm not 100% sure if that is a correct translation of that scene. I think these things are just more along the lines of manipulating people by just trying to show a little bit of that familiarity. We saw Julie as a young person, so it makes sense one of the younger monsters would try to tempt her. Just like with Megan. We see Megan, it makes sense that a grandmother kind of monster would try to tempt her. Something that would work the most, the best chance of success is probably the monster that is going to be employed at any given moment. So I think that's what is going on there. I don't think this thing necessarily specifically took on the form of someone that Julie definitely went to school with. I think it was just more of a familiar kind of thing.
And Megan flat out told her, you're not my grandma. She knew that it was not your grandma, and still ended up opening the thing. The same way Julie was. It wasn't like a full hypnosis. It wasn't a full mind control. It was that brief hesitance, that little bit of hesitation. And Julie had stopped right up until Kenny popped a shot into the guy's shoulder, into the monster's shoulder. That snapped everybody out of it. Whatever hypnosis or whatever mesmerizing was going on, once Kenny popped that shot off, then then that kind of broke the spell in a way. And the thing is, the monsters didn't need, you didn't need mind control. You didn't need a long. All you needed was a moment of hesitation. I mean, much less case. Look how long it took to get caught. Exactly, it took a second to get Cautry.
All you needed was a voice, a simple voice. Father Cautry, Father, hey Father. Boom. That's all it took to kill him.
Yep.
So yeah, I think it's more of along the lines of they're just very good at employing certain methods of manipulation to manipulate certain people. Like they know what method to use for any given person at the time. Is kind of how I see it anyway.
And just because they're walking slow, I mean, we've seen with Frank in the box. We saw with Brick down in the underneath, and Tom. Brick died. Tom. It was Tom that got.
Yeah, Brick died.
But yeah, they can move fast when they're in kill mode. So
when
that moment of hesitation. When they're in monster mode, maybe they have like that kind of. They definitely seem to have some kind of superhuman, strength and agility. It's interesting how they always walk all over the place, but they're always walking when they're in human form. But I think you're right. I wouldn't be too surprised if when they're in their monster form, they're capable of some much more feats of agility. And maybe they're even capable of that in their human form as well. After all, we're seeing these monsters get on all these kinds of roofs when they're in their human form, like Granny and Jasmine. So it stands to reason that although they move slow, that doesn't mean they can't move fast. I think they can. I think they have much more agility and strength and speed than they showcase, but they only use it in times where they absolutely need to, like you mentioned with the Cautry killing and with the Tom killing when the monster leaps onto him super fast. So I think it's along those lines. They can move fast, but they choose not to because something slow walking is always going to be scarier than something running at you, in my opinion anyway. Absolutely.
Jade looks like I saw someone say Jade looks like a freaking lumberjack. Yeah, Jade the lumberjack. Yeah, it's pretty interesting to see how much Jade's hair has grown in such a short amount of time. You look at the hair on every other cast member. No other cast member's hair has grown at the rate that Jade's has. You got to remember this. They've only been in town. Jade specifically has only been in town for a little while, a very short amount of time, maybe a month or so. And we see his hair is just growing at this rapid rate. And you look at everybody else's hair in the town, and it's all the exact same as it was in the first episode of the first season. So yeah, I mean, and I think that's just to showcase Jade's state of mind. I do think Jade's hair is a reflection of his state of mind at the given time, because we see it starts off in the beginning of season 1, clean cut, nice and neat, before he starts seeing this whole vision by the end of season 1, and then by midway through season 2, you can already see his hair is starting to get more and more wild. So part of me is starting to think that his hair is maybe reflecting his mental state, that the crazier his hair gets, the worse he is getting.
Yeah, because he was a tech billionaire, and he went from that to being upkeep, like physical upkeep is becoming less of a priority for him. Especially as he gets these unbidden visions of Christopher, of the Christopher and the symbol. So yeah, it's super cool. And again, I mean, it just goes back to him being in layers. He's back to his cat shirt, then the disco shirt on top of that, and then the cardigan.
He's got all three on. He's got the cat shirt, he's got the 70s disco shirt on, and he's got the sweater on. He's literally wearing all three now. And yeah, I mean, obviously it's getting colder, so he needs all three. But yeah, Jade, come on, ditch that 70s freaking disco sweater, that disco shirt. Get something else on. And Boyd, where the hell are you getting all of these damn shirts from? How come you have 1 million of these shirts? What are you doing, Boyd? Where are you getting all these? But I find this interesting. I'm really looking forward to this scene. I feel like we don't get anywhere near enough scenes of Jade and Boyd together. We hardly get any scenes of these two together, unless it's Boyd kind of manhandling Jade into picking a rock to decide where he wants to live. So this is something I'm really looking forward to. Again, these two characters, incredibly important to the overall storyline. They don't interact with each other a whole lot. So I'm looking forward to seeing what exactly they're going to be discussing here, because it looks like they're pouring a drink. It looks like they're discussing something. Boyd looks a little concerned in certain scenes, certain stills. What exactly are they discussing here? Could this potentially be Jade trying to fill Boyd in on some of the visions and some of the symbols that he's seeing? I don't know. This is a tough one, but I cannot wait to see this scene of these two awesome actors sharing the screen together.
Yeah. It's going to be a banger. Like you said, the way these guys, both of these guys' characters, the way they're written, the way they portray their people, and God forbid this is actually an information dump where they actually even two people trade information. It's a miracle,
Exactly. And maybe that's why we're getting a scene like this, because maybe they heard some of the criticisms where, because it wasn't just us. It seems like a good portion of the fandom was screaming, why aren't you guys sharing information with each other? How come Tabitha and Victor aren't telling the entire town that the monsters are right below them? Why is Boyd not telling anybody about what happened to him in the forest? Why is Jim and Donna not telling anybody about this damn radio voice that they heard? So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they deliberately threw some of these scenes into season 3 that showcase the townsfolk actually discussing things amongst themselves and trying to kind of learn from one another's experiences. Because I imagine you take everything that Jade has been through, all the things that he has seen, and then you mix it with all the things that Boyd has been through and all the things that he has seen. You mean to tell me that these two haven't sat down and compared notes yet in terms of all the experiences they've had to try and uncover something? So maybe we're getting a little bit of that. Maybe the writers are throwing a little bit of that in for us, so we do start to see the town kind of communicating with each other a little bit more.
Right. Well, the two people, they can sit and they can actually tell each other their experiences, what they saw and did, because they're both having visions and experiences that other people wouldn't believe. I mean, Boyd just came off of people not believing he had worms in his arm until they appeared. At least these two guys could sit down, talk face to face, and say, "Look." Like they have the disclaimer before they start. Look, everything I'm going to say is fucking crazy.
You're not going to believe
impossible.
This. I'm going to sound like a crazy person, but this is my experience. And then Boyd can say the exact same thing back. He's like, well, you might not believe me, but I was infected with these crazy entity worms. Okay, so I'm right there with you, pal. The weird is it's going around.
Exactly.
The weird is going around.
So they can start from ground level at the same level. Good.
Yeah, Jade using Miracle Grower shampoo. Maybe that's it, Alyssa. And maybe that's it. Cracked the code.
Yeah, all the growth is in his hair, not in the vegetables or anywhere else.
Yeah. That's why we're not growing any crops. It's all going into Jade's freaking head. That's what would scare me to death if they started running towards you before you realized it. Yeah, I mean, it would be a little bit scary now just because we're so used to them walking. But I don't know, maybe it's just an individual preference thing. But for me, when I see something running at me, it's nowhere near as scary as when something is just walking slowly towards you. That's just my opinion personally. Like you look at Michael Myers, you look at the movie It Follows, how it's just this creepy, slow walking towards you the whole time and just never stops. That kind of idea has always been way scarier to me than something running at you. But that's just my personal preference. I guess that preference might vary. But yeah, I prefer them. I would prefer them running over walking, as long as they're not running crazy fast. I mean, I'm pretty fast myself, so hopefully, as long as I'm not the slowest guy in town, I'm okay with them running. Again, you don't have to be faster than the monsters. You just have to be faster than the slowest guy in town, and I'm very confident I would be. Not the slowest guy in town, at least. But yeah, I don't know. Did that Watcher's book predate the show? Anyone know? Yes, the Watcher's book does predate the show a little bit, and you can definitely tell. I wouldn't be too surprised if the show did maybe take some influences from the Watcher's novel. Because when you look at what happens in the Watchers, there's so many similarities to From in terms of the creatures living in these underground caves, not being able to come out during the day, taking these weird human souvenirs down into the caves as well, just like we see on From. We see down there's bicycles, there's old TVs, there's tons of there's dressers, a grandfather clock. There's all kinds of weird human mementos down in the caves in Fromville as well. So yeah, the parallels and the similarities between this show and The Watchers, they're too common to ignore. So I definitely wouldn't be surprised if they took some inspiration from The Watchers, because there's just a lot there that is similar for sure. They're drinking Father Cautry's alcohol. I noticed that as well, because I noticed they're not drinking that kind of piss potato vodka water, as Jade calls it, from the distillery that they make in Fromville. Looks like they got out the good stuff, the Father Cautry good stuff, the good bourbon. They're having a good one. I love Jade's Disco Fever shirt. It looks like he's wearing it unbuttoned over his cat shirt and under the gray sweater for extra warmth. Yeah, he's got that extra layer of that 70s kind of disco vibe going on. You gotta love it. I predicted Jade and together and pulling the car, the strong, smartest one. Again, it is definitely a pairing that you would think would be working together a lot more often. And then next, it looks like they're going to be working even closer together.
Oh, we got some roboting going on, dude.
All right, sorry, am I back?
Sounds like it. Yeah. Okay.
All right. In the next scene, or in the next still, anyway, we have both Boyd and Jade outside wrangling up some of the cows. But one thing I found very interesting is there's not a single drop of snow anywhere in Boyd's shot, yet in Jade's shot, it's a damn freaking blizzard out. So does it start snowing when they are outside, when the livestock gets loose? Is that just when it starts to snow? Because it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of ground on the snow here when it is coming down, but we don't see a drop of snow anywhere in Boyd's kind of still. But again, what is going on here? I mean, you guys have heard me probably say it a dozen times up at this point. I definitely think the monsters are going to use these livestock as a potential opportunity to ambush the townsfolk. During this food shortage and during this incredible weird winter that seems to be coming around, this livestock has never been more valuable to the town. So if you did want to draw them out of their homes to potentially ambush them or do something else, letting the livestock loose would be a very good way to draw them out of their homes at night. It's one of the few things that they might actually have to risk going outside for.
Yeah, that's how you'd get Tin Chan outside and all that stuff. And that's a good catch, though. Yeah, I mean, because he's wearing the exact same shirts in the kind of the exact same way with like this sweater kind of hanging off. It doesn't even look like there's snow in this one. Like a sudden storm snow squall. Yeah,
it almost, you see a little bit here, this little bit of white. It almost looks like maybe it just starts to snow when they go outside and start doing whatever they're doing with the livestock, because you can kind of start to see a little bit of white flying down, but nothing like this. That's for damn sure. And here we see Jade. He's all kind of disheveled. His sweater is half off. Like, what's going on here? I mean, are these two different scenes entirely? I don't think so. But I'm starting to think that maybe it just starts snowing right when they're outside. I don't know.
Yep. Crazy. Yeah. You hear the cow,
yeah.
Imagine you're all bunkered down for the night. I mean, this has got to be very close to the scene where they're in the office, having their talk session over the bourbon.
I think it's the same scene.
And then suddenly,
we also have one still of Boyd in that very same shirt inside the sheriff's station, and he's pulling down the blinds and he's looking out something outside. I wouldn't be too surprised
if a cow mooing or a sheep.
Yeah, that's when he sees that the livestock is out, and then they kind of have to risk it to save them. But why is Tien Chen out there? I mean, is she really coming out to risk saving these animals too? It's a little weird that she's out there.
True. Yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
I have a feeling this will be. Do you think this will be early on in the season then? Where we're gonna
apparently all of these stills were reportedly all from episode 1.
Ooh, holy moly!
I'm not. They're labeled all as episode 1, but it just seems like there's way too much happening in all of these stills for this to all just be one episode. I mean, it could be, I suppose. Maybe we're going to have like a really action-packed first episode. That is definitely possible. But looking at all of these stills, I mean, it's almost hard to believe that this is all happening in just one episode, but it could be. It very well could be. They're all labeled as stills from episode 301. So I don't know.
Interesting,
I
but
don't
yeah,
know
I've
what's
seen the
going
weather
on there.
change because we know that the weather is going to be different unless it's a storm squall that then goes away in the morning when the daylight comes. Strange stuff, yeah.
Maybe.
But yeah,
The snow kind of comes and goes. It's not always snowing. Maybe it kind of comes and goes here and
yeah,
there.
it doesn't accumulate. Yep, it's true. That's true.
I don't know. It's freaky, but I am looking forward to seeing it. Let's see what you guys are saying. Kenny and Jim look for his wife, but neither know anything of the forest. Yeah, I mean, in terms of two people just going out into the forest and hoping to find food or even Tabitha, Jim and Kenny, it doesn't seem like a pair that's going to have much success, but maybe I'm wrong.
What did Kenny do before he got there? What was his line of work prior to? Did we ever know?
I don't know.
They talked about their dreams. He was a student, right? Because
I think he was a student.
Yeah, they talked about his roommate. He hiding stuff inside that globe from his roommate, or was it roommate?
I think in the From Wiki he's listed as a student, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
I could be wrong.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Kenny did.
Yeah, and Jim was teacups.
Yeah, Jim was the roller coaster builder. The engineer, as Strager says. Yeah, we know a few of the characters' backstories and their occupations, but there's still so many of them that we have no idea who these people were in the real world before they got stuck here. Papa Sox says, I think the Christopher and Eloise mom storyline will mirror the Tabitha and Jim storyline. Very interesting. Very interesting. And it may very well, I mean, we're seeing a lot of similarities in a lot of these storylines. Jade and Christopher, Tabitha and Miranda, or maybe even Tabitha and Eloise. We're seeing a lot of similarities in a lot of different storylines. So looks like history tends to repeat itself.
And he's inside of a log cabin. Weird.
Yeah. Well, I think this is the log cabin that they see in the town. I think they're staying there for the night.
In the town?
I think they're staying here for the night.
Oh, okay. Yeah. In the Cannibal Village. Yeah. And it looks like what's the floor look like? Is it like cedar chips on the floor, or is it like almost like a barn of its own or something? Just out of curiosity. Yeah.
I don't know if it's not this building exactly. It's one of these buildings. I would imagine that
definitely.
They're spending the night in.
Definitely the log cabin.
It's a good place to spend the night in. I mean, you got four walls. You got four walls. You can hang up the talisman. It's one of the safer places to spend the night. So I would definitely crash here.
Whose talisman is he taking? Did he take his own? He didn't take his own family's talisman, and he wouldn't have taken Tian Chen unless they put Tian Chen spending the night with somebody else and taking the Tian Chen house talisman from their house. Maybe that's why Tian Chen's outside, because maybe she was staying somewhere else.
Whatever happened to the talisman? I always wondered, whatever happened to the talisman that Boyd threw to Frank and said, go make a life for yourself out in the woods? Was that the one that ended up with Randall? I'm not sure. I thought the Randall might have gotten the Matthews family one. I don't know. I'll have to go back and check on that. I'll have to go back and check on that. But yeah, if they are coming out here in the middle of night, if they did bring a talisman with them, which one did they bring? And maybe it was something where, a couple people kind of all piled into one house for the night so they could spare a talisman kind of thing, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Or maybe they don't even have one. I mean, maybe there's a possibility that they're out here and they don't even have a talisman, maybe. I don't know. You can't really see it in any of the stills. You don't see it hanging up anywhere, but that's doesn't mean it's maybe out of sight somewhere, and just beyond here maybe.
And this could be Kenny's his trip that he said we'll be back before you know it. I mean, they may not have
coming overnight.
Yeah. Oof. Strange.
Now this one gets a little bit interesting, and of course we get a little bit more confirmation that Tabitha does indeed still have the lunchbox, which I think we all pretty much knew was the case anyway. But there we see it for 100% certainty. She does still have the lunchbox. And it looks like she potentially could still be in this Camden, Maine town. It does look like it has that small kind of New England town feel to it if you look at the surroundings that she's in. But what exactly is going on here? I mean, I get the feeling, again, something about that priest just the way that the priest had a very strange look on his face when he was in that confessional. He looks over and he almost looks like he's very troubled. Part of me just can't shake the feeling that Tabitha is telling him this incredible story of what happened to his family, and the priest is remembering Eloise and the story that Eloise told him. And now the priest is finally realizing, holy crap, this little girl was telling me the truth, and believe her, kind of thing. And maybe again, that's what prompts her or sends her into the direction of this Henry house with the bottle tree and the Kui drawings in the basement. She has to get from A to B somehow, and I think the priest is going to play a catalyst in merging the two.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense too. I was trying to square it up with Cautry, like, well, did they share a parish at one point? And I couldn't figure it out because St. Charles is outside of Chicago and they're in Camden, Maine. It's like that would be too far of a stretch of writing. Like, oh, this guy that worked with somebody you happen to know now it has a parish in a town of 5,000 people. It just so happens, and that's pretty much of a stretch. But I like the connection with Eloise. That makes a lot more sense.
It's just a feeling, but I think something about the look on the priest's face in that trailer when he looks away from Tabitha and he just almost looks troubled. So I couldn't just shake the feeling that maybe he's hearing a story that he's already heard before.
And it may echo Cautry's experience with if this little kid comes to him and entrusts him with her story that's so fantastical she doesn't believe it. That would almost echo Cautry's story of the little boy that he didn't believe.
Very kinda much wild. The little boy who came to him and he just kind of brushed off and gave him a candy bar and sent him on his way. Very similar.
Yep.
Very similar indeed. But Leah Bradley asked an interesting question. I guess I can ask the chat this. What do you guys think? Who among us would risk going outside in the middle of the night to save the livestock? Not me. It's a tough one. That's a tough decision to make. I mean, for me, I guess it would all depend on how close any of the monsters were. We know that they move pretty slow. We've seen in a lot of episodes, people are able to kind of dodge and move around these monsters with pretty good amount of ease. So if there wasn't a whole lot of monsters within eyesight, like if there was nothing too close, then maybe I might risk snatching up a goat or two. If there's monsters all over the place, then forget it. I'm staying inside. I mean, until we have an actual weapon that can fight these things, fire is still untested. I definitely still think fire would work. Decapitation would probably also still work. But until we have a definitive way of fighting these things and defending yourself without a talisman, the monsters would have to be far away from this livestock for me to enter the sanctity of my safe home in the middle of winter to risk grabbing these animals. But again, if there weren't too many monsters around close, I'd do it then. Because you can dodge these things with pretty ease, it seems.
Yeah. Well, the monsters were still out at night. Yeah, the monsters were still out at night before Boyd discovered these livestock out in the chickens and whatever out in the forest. So it wasn't like they were eating these things. The only thing you'd have to do is round them up. I mean, if they stayed inside and these livestock were loose, they'd just wander around. They wouldn't just.
I imagine they wouldn't go too far. I mean, yeah.
Especially if they're still getting fed.
They seem domesticated.
You still have to feed these things too. Yeah.
They already seem domesticated. It seems like when Boyd finds the goat out in the forest, it's already got a harness on it and shit. So these things already seem like they're well kind of broken in and domesticated already. So yeah, I mean, going outside might not even be worth the risk. These things might not wander too far. And then you can kind of just wrangle them up the next morning. So that would probably be the safest bet. But no, it's an interesting question. I mean, who would brave the cold outside to save the livestock? I don't know.
Right. And maybe it's not the monsters that opened the barn, because number one, if even if you go out and get them, did they get out of a corral? Did they actually get out of the barn? The barn or corral wouldn't have been talisman secured anyway, most likely. Yeah. So maybe it was not Randall. Maybe it was a mole that that opened the thing and let them loose. Oh, Strega wanted the meh, my simulated sheep / goat sound.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll
do it. 1995 on Cameo. I'll do goat sounds.
There you go. There you go. $5 a pop. Darren Boy says, I trust the doll more than the boy in white. The doll leads Jade to the violin and memories, some from Victor. It was atop the violin box that wasn't for nothing. Maybe we read this doll nefarious because Victor feels so. And that's an interesting point. I mean, yeah, I mean, the doll kind of comes off as a little bit creepy at times. I mean, in the context that we're seeing it in, especially in Jade's vision and down in that cave, it does kind of look a little bit creepy. But yeah, what if we're looking at it through the wrong perspective? That's entirely possible as well. You know, we kind of think it might be an omen of something bad because of how Victor reacts to it. But that's Victor's unique point of view. We have no idea what this doll means to Victor.
True.
But no, that's definitely possible, Darren.
And we never saw I always made the connection between the doll and Christopher, and when Victor said that Christopher made people laugh, and which was not an easy thing to do back then. I always thought he was a ventriloquist, and then as Christopher lost his mind and became evil, then the doll carried that emotional weight. That's
why the doll freaks him out now, because it used to be something that made him laugh, and now all of a sudden it turned into something that was horrific.
Right, 100%.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, at least, if it turns out that it does belong to Christopher. It seems like there's some supporting evidence to point that, like you mentioned, the whole smile thing and not being easy to make people laugh here.
Yeah, but we've never seen Christopher and the doll in the same scene, even in a vision or anything like that. They've always been separate.
Yeah, we've only seen the doll itself in just a few scenes, at all, really. We haven't really seen a whole lot of the doll. It's only been in maybe 5 scenes total.
Yeah. Jade's hallucination down in the monster caves. Where else? I'm trying to remember. But yeah,
we see it. Down in the monster caves. Jade has a interesting vision of it.
When he's smoking his last doobie.
When he's smoking his last joint, yeah. But no, in terms of these 2 stills, it looks like it's just Jim and Kenny spending a night in one of the Cannibal Village log cabins. But then, of course, we see Tabitha back in the real world with the lunchbox, and you guys know how I feel about the lunchbox. I definitely think it's going to play a very vital role in season 3. It just seems like it's way too specific of an item to put in Tabitha's possession to not play a part in the story. I think we're going to see something play out with the lunchbox. Maybe it will be some kind of catalyst that brings Tabitha and another character together. Maybe Eloise, maybe Henry, who knows? I can't wait to see what's going on with Tabitha, but I guess I'll ask you this, Ravener, because there still has been some debate on this question. Now, we all remember when season 2 first ended, the fandom seemed to be kind of split down the middle. How many sleeps till season 3? 12. Well, 11 for me, actually, because I'm on the East Coast. I'm on East Coast time. So for me, I am 11 days away from season 3. 11 days, 12 days if you're on the West Coast. It is coming, guys, closer and closer. But one thing I wanted to ask you, Ravener, and the chat, I would love to get the chat's opinion on this as well. What do you guys think of the whole theory that started when season 2 ended? Now, season 2 ended in a pretty interesting cliffhanger with Tabitha seemingly waking up in this hospital. Where she is up for debate. And that's exactly the question. It seemed like half of the fandom seemed to kind of think that she was in the real world, and it seemed like the other half of the fandom think that she was not back in the real world, that she was in some kind of quote-unquote level 2 area of Fromville, as it's been referred to as. Now, based on everything that we've seen, what do you guys think? Do you guys, and especially if there are anybody in the chat who thought she is in a level 2, what do you guys think now? Is Tabitha in the real world, or do you think there's a possibility that this still could be some kind of level 2 area of Fromville? I would love to know what you guys think. But what about you, Raven? Do you think Tabitha is in the real world?
Well, I actually flipped because I was one of the people because I mean, what we saw of Tabitha in the hospital was 12 seconds or something. It was no screen time, and all we had was what we were shown right at the end of season 2. So I was like, I was one of those who believed that it was just level 2, that she had done whatever she needed to do to go on to the next level, but she was going to find out that it wasn't out. She wasn't out. She was and something would have been the indicator. And I still thought the lunchbox. I mean, I won't say I was like completely convinced of the theory, but I thought for sure that maybe Eloise was going to be a nurse or something that handled the possessions of incoming patients in that hospital, and that lunchbox was going to be the MacGuffin. The lunchbox was going to be the deciding factor. I think that was overly convoluted. I think I was going too far, taking a 12-second screen time into way too far. I think she is, and especially from what we've seen with the trailers, all indications are that even if she is only in level 2, it seems like level 2 is hella fleshed out as far as having parish priest,
Truman
as far
Show
as
kind
having
of thing, or what she
right.
stepped into? She stepped into the Truman Show season 2, Tabitha's fucking season. I don't know.
Yeah, it's got emergency services. It's got a parish priest. It's got relatives like extended relatives of people you've heard of tangentially from a story. All that is present, and it's not the real world. I don't believe that. I don't believe anymore. I mean, I could have been sold on it being level 2, but at this point, I think she is back in the real world, and I think there's enough meat on that bone for the writers to, I mean, having her get back to her quest now is to get back to her kids, get back to Fromville, and ideally lead everybody else out the way that she got out, minus the precipitous drop from a lighthouse. But at least, and that's something that we have to establish here in season 3 is, okay, now she's out, but how can she get back in? None of those guys went in voluntarily the first time around, so how do you make that happen?
Part of me is thinking that she could potentially find a way back in a similar way or a similar cause as to how she left. And what I mean is, we see Tabitha go out of the lighthouse, and next thing we know, she ends up in the real world, presumably in Camden, Maine, by some of the surrounding evidence. And then all of a sudden, what's the coincidence that a ambulance also from Camden, Maine, gets stuck in Fromville right afterwards? The odds are incredibly slim if this was anywhere else. Part of me is starting to wonder if when Tabitha did cross over into the real world, it left some sort of rift or doorway like thing that allowed the ambulance in Camden to arrive in Fromville, because it's just way too much of a coincidence to think that Tabitha leaves this place, ends up in Camden, Maine, and then an ambulance from Camden, Maine also gets stuck in Fromville right afterwards.
Right. Maybe
it
she'll
almost
be
seems
in
like maybe Tabitha escaping left some sort of doorway open, maybe.
Right. Or she has to be in a vehicle with a dude she can't stand who has a man bun, and that will be the key to opening the rift, because it'll be just like with Jim. That the ambulance driver will have a man bun and she can't stand him. Or maybe, hey, no, I'm teasing. Hey, here's a question though. Who do we think is going to be? I mean, we know the cop is going to be in the ambulance. We think that there's going to be a convict in there where the cop is escorting them.
I think there's some interesting possibilities there. Let's see what the chat is saying about the real world Fromville question first, and then we will dive into that. Jay Ruiz says she's in the real world. Strega says level 2. Okay, we still got some level 2s in the chat. All right, okay, I respect it. Alyssa Ann says, I think she's in the real world now. Woodrow says, I thought she was in level 2, but I'm changing my mind. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with changing your mind when you see some, new evidence or new data points. I change my mind all the time. That's why I try not to stay like too married to any one particular theory. I like to try to be adjustive, because a show like this, if you're too married to one specific theory, you tend to lean into a little bit of the confirmation bias, where at that point you're actively looking for things in the show to only support your theory. So I try to not be too married to any one theory and kind of just analyze the show as it comes, I guess. Movie Guru says level 2. Jackie C says the real world. We got another one from the real world. So we got 2 from Fromville, and we got 4 from the real world. 4-2. 4-2. Waiting for the next season feels like worse than my nicotine withdrawals. Ooh, I am sorry to hear that. I am sorry to hear that. Tony Vasquez says, not where, but when. I'm still thinking she's in the real world, but different time, late 70s or early 80s. And that's been an interesting kind of theory that's been going around as well, that she is in the real world, but she might not be in her timeline, which I suppose could be possible. They have been making some weird hints at some weird kind of time displacement happening on the show already, so that's possible. Did she die and end up in the real world like Abby thought, died from the fall? Another interesting theory as well. I mean, yeah, we hear Abby was dead convinced that if you die here, you'll wake up in the real world. So much to the point where she went on a damn killing spree, for crying out loud. But one thing that kind of threw me off of that theory is the message that Sarah gets at the end of season 1 when her and Boyd are, trotting out into the forest. Sarah hears a voice, and she specifically says the voice was different this time. This time it was a female. And then that's how Sarah hears about fish and loaves. And the voice also says, tell Boyd I was wrong. There are worse things out here than the monsters. The tell Boyd I was wrong part almost makes me feel like that was Abby trying to communicate to Boyd that she was wrong. Dying in here doesn't bring you home. Because Abby would know, because she has died here, and it looks like she is now stuck here as one of these disembodied voices that Sarah hears. So if anyone would know that Abby's theory is not true, it's Abby. And it did seem like that might have been actual Abby communicating with Sarah, just based on some of the information that Sarah brought back. So I don't know if the whole die in Fromville thing will bring you to the real world. I thought that was a very interesting theory at first, but I don't know. I mean, there have been some people thinking that, we might actually find Tabitha's body just laying at the bottom of the lighthouse and she's in the real world now. And again, I mean, it would certainly be an interesting twist if that was the case, but I guess I'm just not expecting it, but I guess it's possible.
Yeah. And then as the way the entity is aware of everything that's going on, inside and out in Fromville, it almost seems like the entity kind of overheard Sarah tell Boyd about Abby's voice. And then that might have led into the entity using Abby's illusion to try to convince him again of the opposite thing, which was about hope or whatever, right before the 47 came on the thing. Yeah. So, I mean, it's like it knows, it might be almost like omniscient within Fromville. It might know everything that's going on within Fromville, but it can only take the information that it knows. I mean, that somebody has said. I mean, but again, you have to extrapolate from with no evidence, but the same way that they could manifest fears, but you'd have to know somebody had this fear, like Nathan's fear of cicadas. Nathan was long dead before the cicadas ever manifested. I mean, the
timeline of the show is really only a few days.
But at least he was dead. It wasn't like he was alive telling Sarah how much he
actually died a few days later is when technically the cicadas arrived. So if that theory was to be true, it could still, I guess, apply. I mean, if that's the case, how long after death how long does it take for your fears to manifest here? I don't know.
If you die in Fromville, does the entity gain full access to all of your memories and thoughts, like your entire psyche? That's another weird one.
I get the feeling the entity probably already knows everything about all these people, just for the simple fact that the monsters seem to. The monsters seem to know intimate details about all of these people, their names, who they are.
True. And it does go back to all them, like every person there being chosen, like Khatri, like Marielle, like, bang, 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 to go down the line. Everybody seems to have been chosen. So whatever entity it is, whether good or bad, seems to be aware of who these people are before they're chosen, before they pass through the rift and, pass through the tree or whatever it is. Into the loop at least. That's another, man, it's so confusing. But then let's go back to the chat. I know my brain is fried.
No, you're fine. No, you're fine. That's what the show does to you. It kind of sends you off in 100 different directions, because there's so much going on in these first 2 seasons and not a whole lot of answers that go with them. So it really does just open up a whole world of possibilities as to what could really be happening, because we just don't know. There's so much we don't know.
And then we talk about
But
something,
it would
you'll
be
say
cool.
something a certain way, and it'll synthesize an entire new angle in my mind to something completely unrelated. It's like, oh wow, what if, what if, what if? And that's the thing. I mean, that's what I like to do on these shows is throw out the what ifs. You know, if they're disproven immediately, or if there's some like a one-liner, you know, 2 seasons ago in one episode that can disprove it. I just, you know, finding out what's not true is as important as finding out what is true. You know, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's all
That's one thing I
information
really
at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's all information at the end of the day, and that's one thing we just do not have a lot of when it comes to this show.
Yep.
Jen Hack says it would be cool if level 2, it'd be cool if it was level 2 and went Invasion of the Body Snatchers type weird. That'd be pretty interesting. I mean, I do love me some Invasion of the Body Snatchers. That is an
Oh,
absolute
man.
classic.
Yeah, but let's see
And
Tabitha
then
in Camden after dark. Let's see if the people are all monsters.
Yeah. Jay Ruiz says, and the new priest will go with her and Eloise to Fromville. Ooh, interesting, Jay. So Jay thinks the priest might be entering Fromville as well. I mean, shit. I guess anything's possible in this place. I mean, Father Cautry is dead. The place is in the line for a new priest, I guess. Knox County ambulance convinced me. Yeah, the Knox County ambulance. It seems a little too coincidental to be coincidental. I always thought she was back in the real world personally. I just thought, you know, if I was one of the writers on this show, from a writing standpoint, putting her back in the real world just kicks open the door for so many potential storylines as to where you could take Tabitha. I mean, I suppose you could do a lot with her being in some kind of level 2 of Fromville as well, but her being in the real world just adds a much more interesting dynamic to the show, in my opinion, anyway.
Right. And I mean,
So
the whole
thought she
purpose
was
of a
in the
level
real world.
2, yeah, the purpose of a level 2 would have her thinking that she's out right up until the point where she hits the wall, where she finds out,
Which is
oh
why
no,
it's
I'm
still
not.
possible.
Yeah.
Which is why it's so possible. That's why I wanted to kind of ask the question: is there anyone out there who still thinks that she might be in level 2? Because even though we have a lot more evidence pointing to her being in the real world, there's always that possibility that it's still staged.
Yeah.
So
I mean, Fromville looked real to
my
Jade. It seemed like a escape room, you know, an elaborate escape room, right up until he figured out what it is.
Yeah.
So everybody comes to that
Indeed.
realization separately. So, yeah.
Maybe. Will Small says, my Tabitha idea splits the difference. I think Tabitha is in the real world. However, the twist will be the time period won't be the alternate time. And again, that's another one that's been popping up lately, that yes, she's back in the real world, but it's a different time period. It's not 2022, which is where it should be. This show takes place in 2022. That is the year that they should be in, their current year anyway. But yeah, maybe Tabitha will be in another time period. That is possible. The Movie Guru says level 2 because no clocks or indications of time. Yeah, some people were pointing that out, that there was no kind of, you can't really see any clocks or indication of time moving. And even when the season 2 finale premiered, I saw a lot of people kind of pointing out the fact that when Tabitha is looking out the window, there seemed to be no movement. Like even in the water, there wasn't even really any movement in the water. And I kind of just chalked that up to it being literally a 2-second scene, and the water being incredibly far away from her, and maybe there just wasn't much movement, especially considering that shot was kind of digitally added. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it might have been a hint that maybe there's some freaky deaky going on here. There's no movement out there. Maybe that's more evidence that it's not the real world, which again, could potentially be.
And I know some of our deep divers. I mean, there was a clock in the room right where when Jim was climbing up, when Jim had his leg injury and he was climbing up because the lights were flashing or something. I know there was a clock in there. There was the watch that Jade had. I can't remember. It wasn't 11:10, or maybe it was the broken watch that Jade loved. But did they work though? And were they synchronized?
They don't seem to work.
Yeah,
they don't seem to work. A lot of them. Oh, man, and we were just talking about this like a week ago too, and we were talking about the time that most of them seem to be stuck on, but I'm blanking on it. But yeah, it's it's the Tabitha scenes that we haven't seen any clocks in yet. But I mean, we've only seen her in a small handful of scenes. I mean, us not seeing a clock, or I mean, it's not a big indication that she's in level 2, at least for me anyway. But again, she could. Who knows?
It's so funny, man. Because imagine if like the set designers or the costume people or whatever, they could fuck us up by just having a continuity error. of like moving the clock or not having the clock be in and just forgetting to move it or to put it at a different time. They would throw us a conspiracy.
Well, that's exactly what I think happened in season 1, actually, when Victor throws the rock into the faraway tree with the smiley face on it. And then when the rock comes out of the faraway tree, it's a totally different smiley face. Like, it's definitely two different drawings on the rock. And I think that was probably just a similar production thing where they had 2 rocks on set, used one for one scene and one for the other. I don't really think there's anything more there.
Okay.
But Real was actually the one who pointed it out to me. Real Enigmas. He was actually the one who pointed it out to me. I didn't even catch it at first. And he slowed it up and he showed me the 2 images, and you can clearly see there are 2 different smiley faces. It looks like it's the same rock just about, but definitely 2 different smiley faces. One is almost like a perfect circle, and the other one isn't quite as perfect. You can definitely tell the difference that it's 2 different smiley faces.
So it was just Victor drawing it live, and then the other one was already made and just dropped down. And they shoot things out of order all the time. Yeah.
No, I think Victor drew the smiley face on both of them. It's just a different rock from 2 different takes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that kind of stuff happens.
It's an indication of something else going on. You never know. You never know. And that's the thing. A show like this is why I always try to, remind people, or at least not remind people, anyone is free to watch and consume the show in any way that they want. And I'll never tell anybody otherwise. But for me, I kind of always have to remind myself that this is a mystery box style show at the end of the day. So sometimes, just by its very nature of being very mysterious, sometimes as a viewer, I'll look deeper into things that I think might have meaning that really don't really mean that much at all. And that's what this show does to you. And it challenges you as a viewer. That's why I love shows like this that really genuinely make me think, because now as the viewer, I need to kind of pick and choose what are some of these things that they're showing us that are going to have some kind of narrative meaning, and what are some of these things that I'm looking deeper into that mean nothing at all. And I think
absolutely.
the show will definitely trick us more often than we'll find that we're right. Because it's just by the very nature of this kind of story, the very mystery of it, you're always going to be looking for the deeper meaning in everything you see. And there's not always going to be a deeper meaning in everything. Sometimes it might just be a simple production error, like I believe is the case with the smiley face.
Yeah. And that's where I'm at too. I mean, I do not believe that they've given the story. I don't believe that they've given up the story. I don't believe that they've put a clue in here that, there's stuff that will make a lot more sense when we see the finale. We'll see stuff in seasons 1 and 2 that we're like, oh, okay. That's definitely a lot more significant now. But I don't believe that anybody's going to unlock the whole show based on just what we've been shown. And there's a lot of stuff that's evocative, that evokes feelings or sensations. Like the Brundle stuff, that evoked, when I saw that, whenever I see a murky body of water like that you can't see the bottom, I automatically think bodies. That comes from Poltergeist, when the coffins come floating up, when the things got flooded. There's probably been a dozen horror movies and things like that where a murky body of water conceals something hidden. It's not like I discovered this. It's not like it's a unique thing. A million people have probably come to the same conclusion based on literally zero evidence. But look what we've done just in this show. You've showed a handful of screenshots, and I've agreed with both points. You've had 2 opposing theories, or not even opposing, just 2 completely divergent theories, and I've agreed with both of them, like the phone call and then something else, the other thing.
And Julie's theory of Acosta bringing the news in of Tabitha.
Right. And both of them, at least at this point, are equally plausible. And that's what, it's so cool. But the thing is though, and that's why it's cool to do trailer reviews and then these screenshot reviews, because you can treat everything as a 10. I could take that scene with Kenny in the lake, or we could take the Jim in the cabin, and crank it up to a 10 of significance. This scene, this screenshot, this one thing, this still that they've released is 100% pivotal, 100% important, and reveals everything about what's going to happen in this episode. So then we can write our own story and extrapolate from that, this elaborate story that we're going to find out in 2 weeks has 0% to do with anything relating to reality. We're writing our own story in our mind in the absence of anything else, which is so
And that's
so
part
so
of the
cool.
fun at times.
Yeah.
You know, that's part of the fun at times, kind of letting your imagination kind of run wild and kind of weave this narrative in a way that you think might be interesting or where you think it might go.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's what's fun about kind of diving into these things and discussing them. But yeah,
Yeah.
I always have to kind of remind myself that I got to be too careful to dive too deep into, smaller that might be insignificant details, because
Oh,
sometimes
absolutely.
there just might not be anything there.
But some
Sometimes
of
there
these,
is some things there.
dude,
Sometimes there isn't though.
they put so many
Um,
breadcrumbs in here that I think it's physically impossible for it not. Some things have to be related. They're so
oh
they're
yeah.
so
It's not like
coincidental. It's beyond
everything we're
coincidence.
seeing is going to be a bunch of
Yeah.
red herrings. I think they're
Yeah.
definitely littering a lot of red herrings in here that are probably
Yeah.
going to go nowhere. But there's no
Oh,
possible way that everything we're seeing is just a red herring. A lot of
yeah.
it is probably going to have some kind of narrative purpose, but
Yes.
not all of it will.
Speaking
Not
of that, here's one
all
for
of it.
you. Here's one for you and for the chat. The bile, the biggest red herring of all. Are we gonna get some more bile? Are we gonna?
I don't
We're gonna
know. I don't know. I mean, when the vial first came around, I instantly thought that it was not going to work for a weapon. But I had a
mm,
feeling that maybe they'll find some other kind of use for it. They'll spill it, or something will happen, and it'll reveal that it has some other kind of use. I just had a feeling it was way too easy for that to be a weapon that was going to take down the monsters.
oh,
There's no
see,
way that was ever going to happen. It's way too
ah.
easy. You don't throw a MacGuffin like that into a show like this that early.
See,
You
I
just
thought it
don't
was
do
gonna
that.
be, yeah, I thought it was gonna be the non-silver silver bullet. I really did think it was gonna work in some way. Then their problem was going to be that they had a limited amount of it. So how, say you got 10 enemies and 5 bullets, what do? How do you decide that? And then did the monsters replace themselves the same way that people do? All that kind of stuff. Julie thinks bile's done. Chat, what do you guys think? Do you think we're ever? I mean,
Yeah, what do
do
you
you
guys
think
think?
that whole significance of it, Boyd telling Christy, this is something, when Christy had completely lost faith and started stabbing Smiley because there was no usable info derived from that
Mhm.
autopsy. At least this is something, and they went through the trouble of collecting it, and not all of it was used. They still had some. They'd collected some and used some on the bullets. The bullets turned out to not be anything, but they still had whatever they had left over from collected. So yeah, what do you guys think? I
Mhm.
mean, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I thought they were going to do something with it. So if you think the bile's done, I mean,
I don't know if it's done completely. I just knew it wouldn't work as a weapon. I mean, I genuinely thought they would find some other kind of use for it. Now, will that be the case in season 3 or 4? Will the bile come back in some way and they will find some other use for it? I suppose it's possible, but I don't know. I don't know. It seems like the bile was a big bust up until this point, but I just had a feeling it was never going to work as a weapon.
oh wow.
It's just too easy, way too
But they
easy.
put so much screen time into it, kind of talking about it, which was kind of weird.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They,
They did. Well, I mean,
yeah.
not a whole lot, but I mean enough to make all of us think that it was definitely going to do something. I feel.
Yeah. And I think one thing that
And
we're
maybe it
getting,
still will. Who knows?
yeah, and I do think one byproduct of the strike was this. We should be, I mean, we should be done with season 3 by now. Actually,
I'm so
realistically,
glad we're not. I'm so glad we're
yeah,
not. That would have been
yeah,
such a nightmare covering this and House of the Dragon all at the same time. That would have been an
right,
absolute nightmare. At least,
yeah,
from a YouTube standpoint, it would have
yeah,
been a nightmare doing that. So I'm actually glad it kind of worked out the way that it did, that we got
yeah,
House of the Dragon and then From right after, and then right when From ends, we have Dune
yeah. But
Prophecy. So we got some good
from
ones
a
to look forward
yeah
to.
from a from standpoint, though, we've been gnawing on the bones of season 2 for way too long. If there had been no strike and season 3 came in a timely manner, then we'd be moving on with the story at least, and we'd be getting at least some answers and stuff. But and then that's part of what we're doing here is, I mean, that we've been given like a whole nother year to sit there and just like, frame by frame and extrapolate and zoom in, enhance to try to derive any kind of clues out of this. So I think season 2 got a little more scrutiny than it necessarily should have,
I
and
like
like
season
negative
2. I
scrutiny as
mean,
well.
I
Yeah.
thought season 2 was fine. Season 1's better, but season
Mhm.
2 is still great. Still a
Yeah, I
great
came down
season.
hard on it, and I just felt like what they were going for. I think they felt like they did enough, and I mean I've said this many a
I thought
time
they
too.
did.
Yeah, I think they felt like
I thought they
they
did
had done
fine.
enough. They went with the psychological, the body horror kind of thing, the creepy crawlies, the bugs on your skin, the phobias, and like you said, even in the introduction, the trailers for season 2 or the promos for season 2, they talked about
Yeah,
phobias as a heavy
the
thing.
phobias.
But they got away from the jump scares. They got away from the actual like the horror, and that's why
Yeah.
everybody was so happy to see that the monsters are going to take a more prominent role as monsters again, rather than just some kind of taking a back seat to the entity type horror of season 2. So
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm super stoked for that in season 3. Like we said, make the
Yeah, the
monsters
monsters
great
are
again.
coming back.
They
Yeah,
they
the
they
monsters are coming back.
they have a role to play,
Coming
and
back in a big
I'll be
way.
happy to see that. Yeah. Yep, and
Indeed.
season 3 gonna
Indeed.
awesome. Absolutely. Yep.
Absolutely.
Ju-
Julie thinks the bile is done. Movie Guru says the bile is bullshit. Both in the show. All the reviews about it. I'm kind of leaning a little bit more that way myself, to be honest. Again, at first, I knew it was going to work as a weapon, but I thought, maybe something else they'll stumble on. Now, I'm not so sure. If it does come back, I'll be kind of surprised, really. I think the bile storyline is done. But who knows? Who knows? Let me scroll down a little bit. Let's see what else you guys are saying from the misdirection experts. They really freaking are. And that's what's so great about this show. They are masters at the sleight of hand style of writing, where you think this is happening here, when really this is happening on the whole other side over here. And it's good. Not every writer can kind of pull this kind of complex narrative and make it make sense. We've seen a lot of shows try to take the similar blueprint that Lost has taken back in the day, because Lost was such a huge phenomenon that after it ended, you found so many networks trying to replicate that style of show, and none of them worked. And a lot of it was due to the writing. I mean, if you are going to write a story like this that is, again, the quote unquote mystery box style of storytelling, you need to know what the hell you're doing. You need to be a very competent writer, but you also need to know your story very well. You need to know where it's going to start. You need to know where the climactic points are going to be, and you need to know where it is ultimately going to end before you even put anything down to paper. Now, it's okay if you don't have every little detail down, and that's exactly how John Griffin seems to be approaching From. He knows the beginning, he knows the middle, and he knows how it's going to end. It's the in-between parts, the getting from A to B to C. Those are the parts that are going to evolve a little bit over time, and those are the things that he's going to kind of fill in while he's going along his way. And that is the correct way of telling a mystery box style of storytelling. It's okay to not know everything, but at the very least, you need to know your core premise, your core characters, your core world, where it's going, and ultimately how it's ending. You have to know those things first, or your story is going to get out of your control, and you're going to get to a point where you're writing yourself into corners because you're setting up too many mysteries that you don't already have answers for. So I do think John Griffin is like the perfect kind of person to put a story like this down, just based on everything I've seen in season 1 and 2, and everything I've heard from him I've heard him saying in a lot of his interviews. It seems like he knows exactly what the hell he's doing. And it seems like he's the perfectly clever kind of person to pull something like this off and pull it off well. Because again, so many shows tried to replicate that Lost feeling, and so many of them got it wrong. But this seems to be the first one that's actually gotten it right since Lost. And I think it's going to be good. I think we're going to have a very interesting story to look forward to. And it does look like he knows exactly where it's going based on everything we're seeing. I don't think he's just making everything up as he goes. I think he knows where he's going, and he's filling in some of the smaller details as he goes. Tabitha has amnesia, memory loss, look on her face. That's been a very interesting one too as well, that Tabitha is going to wake up and not remember anything. But the only thing that makes me think that isn't going to be the case is the scene at the end of season 2, when she actually wakes up in the hospital and she goes to look out the window. You can see the look of dread on her face when she realizes that she's back in the real world. She even says, no, no, no. So that kind of leads me to believe that she does remember everything. She knows exactly what happened. She knows that her family is stuck back in Fromville, And that's why she's so worried when she's looking out of that hospital window, because she knows that she left her family behind in that nightmarish place. And I think actually, what am I saying? We have some proof of that, actually. I totally forgot. We have some confirmation that Tabitha does remember everything. That's right. There was a new season 3 promo that just came out yesterday that I did happen to record, and in it we hear Tabitha specifically saying that her family is stuck in a place where they can't leave. Check this out.
My family's trapped in a terrifying place. No one can leave.
Why can't they leave us alone?
Hello. This place will not break us. The only way we go home is together.
Oof. My family is stuck in a place where they can't get out. And part of me is thinking that she might be talking to the priest during that scene.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I have my mic off. What was the scene? What was the background of that scene that she was saying that? If there's, I know it was a close-up face.
Quick little glimpse. Yeah, it's a really quick close-up, and it's only a super quick glimpse, so you don't really get a good idea of the setting around her. But I get the feeling it is talking to the priest.
Was her face still scratched up?
A little bit. Let me see. Let's play it again.
My family's trapped in a terrifying place. No one can leave.
Yeah.
So we can see the cut on her chin right here. This cut on her chin, it did seem like it was still there. So yeah, it looks rather fresh.
Okay. Interesting.
And based on the season 3 photos that we have gotten, we do get that one photo of Tabitha when she is in the confessional, and her cuts are still very fresh looking. So yeah, I don't know. It could be the priest. Maybe it's someone else. But I get the feeling she's talking to the priest there. Or who knows? If it's not the priest, maybe it's this Henry character. But next we see, of course, Boyd, Jim, and Kenny all in the, looks like the Tien Chen and now the Matthews family house kitchen. And this is what is leading me to believe that it's a little weird that this is all happening in one episode. These are a lot of stills to be happening in one single episode. I mean, I suppose it's possible. Maybe this is before Jim and Kenny take off. I mean, we see Kenny has a bag right here. Maybe this is them getting ready to leave. But man, these are an awful lot of stills to be happening in just one single episode. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe episode 1 will be a little bit longer than the rest. But we see Boyd, of course, in his patented blazer and flannel, still with the shotgun round holes on his shoulder. We know that Boyd got shot by Reggie at the end of season 2 with a shotgun. So it looks like, again, that is where we are. And we also see Boyd talking to Donna here, having a little bit of an argument with her. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is part of the conversation that we hear in the season 3 trailer, when we hear Boyd say to Donna, "It was an ambush." And then Donna says, "How many did you save?" I get the feeling this is probably that conversation.
Yeah. It could be livestock. It could be turnips. It could be citizens. Yeah, we
exactly.
But his shirt is kind of scuffed. Oh, well, he's got the hole in it from being shot by Reggie. Yeah.
Yep. He's got the hole from getting shot by Reggie. And it doesn't look like he has any blood on his any blood or anything on him, so it looks like this might be before he gets taken captive by the monsters in the barn and gets his shoulder slashed.
Right. And she's wearing a heavy coat inside too, so there may not be heating. Everybody might be bundled up indoors. Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe. Could be. Could very well be. Yeah, the heating issue is going to be it's going to be a fun one to see how they're going to keep warm if these houses don't have some form of heat that they can rely on. And again, Fromville doesn't seem like it's ever really had to deal with a winter before, or at least not in a very long time. So maybe there's not any built-in heat in any of these houses. I don't know. Next, we see Tabitha in front of some kind of address, 1597. I went back to check to see if this was potentially a date that was in the Lighthouse, and it's not. There is a 1500 date, but it's not 97. So I just wanted to check. I didn't look familiar, but I always want to double check when you see these numbers. But yeah, I mean, is this her potentially outside of the Henry house? Maybe. I don't know.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah, there
actually, I
is.
do know. Yeah, it looks like it is. Same paint on the house. So yeah, that's Henry's house. This is Henry's house. Same paint, same trim. That is Henry's house. I haven't been able to dissect any of these photos yet. This is really the first time I'm really getting a chance to kind of dive into them deep. So yeah, that's definitely Henry's house. And in this shot, man, does he bear a striking resemblance to Victor. Is it just me? The nose,
Oh yeah, you
the
could see it.
cheeks,
I mean, you could see it.
the
Yeah.
eyebrows, like this looks like fucking Victor, man. It really does.
Yeah, if they're casting like Fatima like Fatima skeleton Fatima actresses
Yeah,
to make her look
yeah.
like the mannequin dummy or whatever that attacked Elgin, this is pretty. I mean, you definitely could see this guy's genetics being in Victor. Yeah. And we
It
know that
could
this is
be. It
not
could be.
Christopher. This is absolutely not Christopher because we did the
Not
side by
Christopher,
sides
no.
on that.
Yeah, not
But
Christopher.
definitely, yeah, you could see. Plus, I mean, him plus. I mean, if you put him plus Miranda side by side and say, okay, Victor is their child, you wouldn't be like you'd say, oh yeah, okay, that's
I
plausible.
can buy that in a
Definitely
heartbeat. And
plausible.
you know, especially when you see the pictures on his wall that seem to be that not seem to be the picture of Eloise and Victor that is on his wall in the inside of the house. So
Right,
it's
right.
definitely some kind of familial bond to Victor and Eloise. If not directly their father, then maybe an uncle or something along those lines, but definitely a family member, without
Yeah,
a doubt. I'm
and I
almost
saw like
positive.
the debate about the Eloise's sweater being the same in Victor's memory and on the wall. Come on, man, it's the same sweater. The color grading's different,
It's
but
the
it's
same
like
sweater.
it's got a gray
It looks
band
like
with
it's
the
the same
design in
sweater.
between the gray bands and stuff. Like the
Yeah,
design is, unless she has
yeah. And
multiple
one
sweaters of exactly the same kind, like Christmas
No, it's
sweaters.
the same one. I think the only difference is one is a little bit more weathered. I think the one that she's wearing in the picture is probably a little bit more new, and the one that we see her in the vision of Fromville, who knows how long they've been in Fromville up until
Oh
that
yeah,
point. So yeah,
yeah,
it's definitely the same sweater. I think one is just a little bit more weathered than the other, but
yeah. They could have
without a
taken
doubt, same pattern.
They went to the
Same
mall, went
pattern.
to Olin
And
Mills, and got a family photo, and then was driving home and went to Fromville, and that's where.
maybe, maybe. And next, of course, we have this pretty interesting one of Donna and Ellis looking not mad, but certainly not happy at whatever they're looking at. Donna, in particular, she looks a little perturbed. I don't know what exactly is going on here in this scene. This is all we really get. We don't get any other angles of the interior of Colony House on any of these stills. This is actually the final still. This is all of them. This is the last one. But yeah, looks like they are looking at something with some measure of concern, at least. They again, they certainly don't look happy at whatever they're looking at. I don't know. We'll have to find out what that is going on there. But that's all the stills, guys. That is all of the stills. And again, some of these stills, you know, not some, I say a good portion of these stills are just different angles of scenes that we've already seen. But some of them do reveal some interesting things. Like, of course, we get a nice, better look at Cannibal Village and how we can probably get a better sense that it looks like it's probably a ruined village and definitely not still lived in. Although people have been pointing out this orange thing here in the back, and everyone's been wondering what it is. And honestly, I mean, it reminds me of that freaking Ford F-150 you see in the back of the Game of Thrones episode, or the coffee cup or some shit.
Right.
Because I don't know what the hell this thing is. This orange weird thing back here. I mean, some said it might be a flower, which I suppose is possible, but one random orange flower in the middle of like dead everything else near it. I don't know.
Looks like a stocking cap,
I
like a
don't know.
blaze orange stocking cap, like a hunter would use.
Maybe,
Hung up on a nail.
Maybe. It's yeah, it's certainly a little puzzling, and it's things like that where the show, you know, sometimes you can dive a little deeper into things that really aren't anything at all, and that's the perfect example of that when it comes to this show. You look at this orange thing, and you start to dissect it and analyze, what the hell is this thing? What's going on? Is it a flower? Is it a hat? When the episode comes around, I guarantee you there will be no reference of anything over here. It's just we're just kind of dissecting it. But that's what's fun about the show, is diving into these things and challenging ourselves and seeing what we can see and seeing what we can figure out. What patterns can we recognize? That's the fun part of this show, and analyzing it with everybody.
Whoever uploaded this and pressed send, they didn't see this blaze orange dot on the thing that they put. It's like, come on, man, just Photoshop it, man. Just blur it, do something with it. I mean, if they had put a black dot over it, it would have been less suspicious than that thing. You know, like
you could have put a little green foliage over it to extend this little bush, and nobody would have known the difference.
They could put Kenny's head. They could put a face on it if they wanted to.
Put literally anything but that orange hat. Literally anything but. But yeah, no, and we also, in terms of other things that these stills have revealed, again, not a whole lot of new information. A lot of it's just different angles of things we've seen. But we do, at the very least, know that not only are Jim and Kenny going to be the ones who find Cannibal Village very early on, but they are indeed entering Cannibal Village as well. And we actually see that they're going to probably be spending a night here. So I cannot wait to see what is going to be going on there. I'm looking forward to seeing what this body of water might potentially be. Again, this seems to be the only other body of water that we've ever seen or even heard of in Fromville. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to be going on here. Tabitha in the hospital, stuff that we've seen already before. Donna telling Boyd about the food shortage. Randall potentially stealing a goat. We got a little bit of everything. Got a little bit of everything. Yeah, I think that's hilarious if Randall really is trying to steal a goat. We get a point of view of the granny monster opening the door in that episode. This is probably the most intriguing thing, though, for me, or at least the scene that I'm looking forward to seeing the most. This Boyd and Jade scene, and what exactly are they going to be discussing together? Because, again, these two very rarely share screen time, and when they do, it's definitely not in a friendly capacity. So I cannot wait to see what is going on here. And then next, it looks like that is when things start to hit the fan. Nighttime is coming. The livestock is out. Will they save the livestock? Will everybody make it out alive? Will this be the episode where Tien Chen unfortunately bites the dust? Whose funeral is that going to be for in episode 2? We know that a funeral is coming. And I guess I'll ask that. Now that everybody has seen these stills, and now that everybody has seen everything we've seen, do you guys still think it is Tien Chen that is going to be getting killed early on in season 3? Or who else do you think potentially could be that? Whose funeral could that potentially be? We know based on the synopsis that episode 2 states that they will be bidding farewell to one of their own, which means someone is going to be dying either in episode 1 or very early in episode 2, most likely episode 1. So whose funeral do you think that is going to be? Who is going to be the first character on the chopping block in season 3? What about you, Ravener? Who's going out?
Man, I'm leaning so heavily towards Tien Chen. I don't want it to be her. I've actually really started liking her character a lot more. The scenes that she had with Jade, certain, like, there's a level of depth to her. But yeah, that you know, it was a kind of a slow acknowledgement or slow recognition of it, but yeah, she's one of those almost as important as Father Khatri, as far as a touchstone, as far as a character that everybody trusted, a character that held everyone together through food, through her cooking and her miracle working in the diner. You know, it's going to be a gut, you know, of course it's going to be a gut punch to Kenny, but just the way that the funeral set up with a plate, with the picture, exactly the way they had Mr. Liu in a plate, or on a ceramic picture frame oval thing. I just think there's too many. I would love to be wrong. But every breadcrumb that I've seen indicates that it's going to be Tien Chen. You know, as far as taking away from the town, as far as moving the plot forward, as far as you know, the huge amount of ripple effects that it's going to have on everybody else. It's got to be her. I don't want it to be her. I want her to live long and you know, live forever and get out. You know, get out of you know, and live with Kenny, happily ever after. Not gonna happen. She's dead. It's sad.
Well,
Probably
especially,
as
sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, probably as a result of this. I mean, we've seen her outside. I want to see how they resolved it. I mean, if this is all from episode 1, I mean, we've got the cattle, we've got the livestock outside, which is the impetus to drive people outside in the dark. Now, there's another nighttime scene from the trailers that
when the ambulance arrives in episode 4, which is the other time I think the ambush could occur. If the ambush doesn't happen in this first episode, it's going to happen in that 4th one.
Yeah, and that's going to be the one that has Ethan and Julie outside, Sarah outside. Do you think? I wonder is then if this is one, and then and I still think there's going to be an eclipse at some point. Maybe there's going to be a darkness as a result of an eclipse. There's going to be the definite nighttime scene with the ambulance. So maybe we're going to have 3 night times where people are forced to interact with the monsters. It's hard to say, but yeah, I think. God, it's going to be it. But yeah, I mean, if whatever happens has to happen by episode 2, and I don't think the one of their own is going to be like Matthias. I don't think they're gonna
No, it's not going to be just some random red shirt. Definitely not. Definitely
Reggie.
not.
Oh
It's
yeah,
not
we
gonna be
got to say goodbye to Reggie, who we all love so
and
much.
this show needs to lose some main characters. They need to kind of bring that factor back to the show. And again, that's one of the reasons that makes season 1 a little bit better than season 2, in my opinion, because not only, like you said earlier, season 1 definitely stays true to their kind of horror roots, and it's genuinely scary at times. But you get that feeling from the very first episode when you see this poor innocent young girl get slaughtered in the manner that she does. That instantly lets you know as the viewer that nobody is safe on this show. This show is not afraid to go to that line and maybe even cross it sometimes. And I like shows like that. I like shows that aren't afraid to kind of take some bold risks every once in a while. And I really want that feeling to kind of come back that I had when watching season 1, when I genuinely felt when every scene I was watching, anyone could go at any given time. Case in point with Cotry. So I do think getting some main character deaths early in season 3 will definitely instill that feeling in some of us, at least while we're watching, that feeling comes back that, okay, maybe anybody really can go at any time if they're willing to take out someone like a Tien Chen or another main character. It's going to kind of bring back that feeling where, okay, the stakes are big here. These stakes are very big here at the end of the day, which is something we didn't get a whole lot of season 2, as we didn't really get any major deaths. I mean, yes, we got Smiley, which was unfortunate to see Smiley go, but he was a monster. And in terms of humans, we really only lost Tom. Tom was really the only significant character, but he was definitely a secondary character, not a main. So yeah, we need to lose a main character, and it's going to happen pretty early on. And we have that funeral coming in episode 2. So it looks like, Tien Chen says Tyler, 100%. Kenny's mom says AT. I like Sarah too much, says Woodrow Nichols. Ooh, yeah, maybe Sarah. Maybe Sarah. Another one for Tien Chen, says Leah Bradley. Julie B says, I'm still 100% convinced it's Tien Shen's funeral in episode 2. Too much evidence, her sweater poking out of the cloth, the altar in the church. That's identical to the one for her husband. Yeah, there's a lot. It does look like that is a kind of Buddhist setup in the church for the funeral. There's a lot more evidence pointing to Tien Chen than anyone else, I would say. I would agree there. Randall wants to try his hand at artisan goat cheese. Maybe he does. Another vote for Tien Chen. Awesome.
But it's definitely not going to be Tien Chen in the barn, though. That is not going to be the scene where Boyd is telling whoever it is, "You're so strong, you're so strong."
Yeah, he's most likely to break Boyd. Yeah, it's Tien Chen would. I mean, it would be travesty. It would be a travesty if Boyd was forced to watch Tien Chen die. But if these monsters are really trying to break Boyd, I think you're going to have to come with something a little bit closer to him than a Tien Chen, a Fatima, or even an Ellis. Or even Kenny, maybe. I think Kenny would probably elicit a similar response to that as well. And some have pointed to Sarah in some ways as well. And Boyd and Sarah have developed a little bit of a connection where he does at least care for her. He doesn't want her dead. He saves her from the box. And a lot of people point out that dialogue that Boyd says to Sarah in season 2, when Sarah says, "I'm not strong enough for this." And in the trailer, we hear Boyd saying, "You're so strong, you're so strong." Some have pointed to that for evidence that it's Sarah in the barn, which is, I mean, it's definitely some good evidence at the very least, because that dialogue is very interesting.
Yeah. So
they've
by episode
demonstrated
2,
some-
by episode 2, it'll definitely be Tien Chen. She'll get a Katri style out. They're not gonna. She's an old lady and she's somewhat loved. She's a great character. They're not gonna belabor the point. They're gonna probably kill her pretty suddenly, give her a last words or something, and then put her down. They're not gonna let it. They're not gonna prolong it. I don't think it's not going to be an elaborate thing, but it'll be the monsters drawing first blood.
Are going to be out there.
We've got a new season. They're going to be drawing first blood
if
again.
It is her that's getting killed. The monsters are going to be out there. So if it is one of those kind of, like the way they got Katri, they got him in the throat, definitely a fatal blow. But it took a little while for him to die. He was bleeding out. He was able to kind of talk with Boyd. We saw that, he didn't lose his faith there in those final moments. They're not going to be able to do that with Tien Chen unless she gets slashed and they're able to like pick her up and get her inside super fast. The monsters are going to be everywhere. So I tend to think you're right. It's probably going to be a more of a quick death thing as opposed to a drawn out, prolonged thing.
Yep. And depending on when they get her, what if they still have to worry about the livestock? What if they have to worry about putting them away? You can have people dying.
I imagine they're going to. And I think maybe that's why we're hearing Donna, like you mentioned earlier. I think that's maybe what Donna could potentially be referring to when she says, how many did you save? Maybe she's actually talking about the animals and not people. How many people did you save? How many animals did you save? I do think that could potentially be it because it's just the way she says it is very weird. How many did you save?
Kind of matter of
she's
fact,
talking about people. You think if she was talking about people, she would say, how many people died or something along those lines. She wouldn't say, how many did you manage to save? That's just not the kind of dialogue you say when you're talking about people. But if she's talking about the animals, that would fit a little bit more. But I don't know. It's coming, guys. We are 11 days away now. Well, 12 days if you are still on the West Coast. But I don't know. Part of me thought would be just if the show just pulls the rug out from under us all, and when we see the scene, it's not Tien Chen that dies. I think a lot of us are expecting it to be her, but I will be. I think I wouldn't mind it if we see a nice twist and it's someone totally different that none of us saw coming. Those are always the most fun reveals, at least for me as a viewer. When you have something in your head that you're dead set certain that it is going to happen, and then the show comes out and it's something totally different. It's a really interesting feeling. It's a fun feeling. But yeah, we're gonna find out, guys.
Did you get my member chat? I didn't. My green.
Oh no, I didn't. I see it now. There it is. Member for 20 months. Wow, Ravener, thank you so much, my friend, for being a member for 20 months. And I love what you are saying here. Do you want to read it for them?
Chat, thank you all for hanging out with us tonight and every week for the Fromville Hour. It is truly humbling that you share your time with us. We're on Tuesday night, and it's late on the East Coast. Thank you guys genuinely and truly. We love hearing your thoughts. We love sharing our thoughts and our angles and anything that can enrich this experience. We all love this show. And we know you guys love it too. So, thank you guys so much. And that's it.
Big thank you, Dean. And 100%, I echo the sentiment myself. I love diving into the show with everybody. I'm so pumped that we are finally getting closer and closer to From Season 3 after all the delays, the writer strikes and everything. We're finally getting there. We are finally within sight of the end. And I can't wait. Again, this is definitely my personal favorite show that is currently on right now, and it's probably my favorite show I've seen in quite a few years, even actually. So I love it. I cannot wait to see where we are going. I said earlier on, and I kept my word, and I will always keep my word. I will never accept early access for this show. I want to watch each and every one of these episodes with everybody every week. I don't ever want to see these episodes early. So that is one thing I am loving diving into is the weekly discussions that we have here with everybody, whether it's here, the Discord. We've been having an absolute blast diving back into From Season 3. It's been awesome, and we will continue to keep that ball rolling, of course. I will be live again this Friday for our usual Fromville Friday stream. Thank God it's Fromville Friday. And I'm also going to be having a Saturday show. We always have a Saturday show as well. We'll see us on our usual Saturday show. And then Sunday will be approaching, and we will be finishing our From Season 2 live watch party in the Discord. We've been doing those watch parties directly in the Discord. I won't be going live on the channel. But Sunday night, we finish our Season 2 watch party of From, and we'll be tackling episode 8, 9, and 10. The final 3 episodes of Season 2 are the ones that we have left, and we will be watching those this Sunday and ending our watch party just in time for From to come around the next following Sunday. So we got a lot of fun stuff planned. I definitely have a ton of stuff that we're going to be doing when From actually gets here and the episodes are actually airing. We're going to be doing a similar format to what we did last year, but we're going to up it a little bit, and we're going to have some interesting events and things for everybody in the chat to participate in terms of fan theory contests, everything. I got a few fun plans that we're going to be laying out. So definitely come back and hang out with us every week, because we'll be diving into all things from Season 3 and beyond. And I cannot wait to hear from each and every one of you all throughout the season as to where you think this story is going to be going. And again, as Ravener said, huge thank you to each and every one of you for joining us every week. You guys have been just incredibly supportive to us, and it's something I never in a million years would have ever expected. This has been the coolest community that has sprung up around this show of From, and definitely the coolest fandom I've ever been a part of, and definitely the most welcoming fandom I've ever been a part of. Some other fandoms can tend to get some vitriol thrown back and forth every once in a while, but I just love how welcoming and how much the From community doesn't really have much of that bullshit in there with us. So I can't thank each and every one of you enough for creating such a welcoming atmosphere in the chat, whether it's someone's first time popping in the chat or whether they've been here since day one. You guys are incredibly same thing that goes with everybody in the Discord. You guys have been so welcoming. Can't thank each and every one of you enough.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I see it even on like the Reddit page and stuff. If you say anything, I mean, we can criticize the show, and you guys know that we love it. The criticism is coming from a place of love or a place of, you know, what would we like to see? What would I personally, just pure opinion, what would I like to see improved? How could it improve in a different way? You see people get attacked, you know, sometimes, and it's like, you know, and even if it's coming from a good place, you know, they are defensive of the show that they like. But now we don't, like in this one, you guys in the chat, you're respectful to each other. You're respectful to us. You know, is maybe once a month we get a troll or something. You know, maybe it'll happen more once we go live and stuff. But no, this has been an awesome channel, and you know, the reason I know it was 20 months. When you got 1,000 subs and we're eligible for monetization, for having memberships, that's when I signed on. So in 20 months, you gained 24,000 people. That's pretty damn good, man. And I think it's just going to go up and up. I think it's going to go up and up and up. And you know, and thank you guys, all you guys in the chat, anybody listening on a replay, anybody you know, coming along. Share it with your friends, man. Give it to somebody that you think might like it. Even on like Twitter and stuff, I'll still see people linking From, and they'll say, I just discovered this show. I'm partway through season 1, or me and my girlfriend are partway through season 2. We'll see that again and again, and there's people that have still not heard of it, and you guys get to be the evangelists. You guys get to be the ones that take this out. And believe me, man, nobody, if you recommend this, nobody's not gonna like it. Everybody likes this show, so it's a very safe recommendation.
Just about. Very small percentage of people that we've introduced the show to didn't like it. Most people tend to like it, and that's totally fine. I mean, not every show is going to be for everybody, but the majority of people that we've shown the show to definitely seem to get invested into it once they give it the time to kind of see where it goes. But yeah, I mean, again, it's been absolutely just incredible to see the support you guys have been giving all of us. We got more support right here from Jen Hack, who has just gifted 1 membership. Thank you so much, Jen, for gifting a membership to the channel. And it looks like Leah Bradley is the recipient of the membership. Welcome, welcome, Leah Bradley. So glad to have you. Make sure you make use of all of the awesome custom emojis we have down there. And I try to say this every week, but after the stream ends, if anyone has any specific custom from emojis that you want me to add for members, definitely leave it in the comment section after the stream ends. I won't always catch it during the live chat, but if the stream is over and you go into the regular comment section, if you guys have any specific emojis that you want to be added to the members emojis, let me know down in the comment section. And if it's possible for me to make an emoji of whatever you request, I will definitely make it happen. I like rotating them out every once in a while. It keeps things fresh, keeps things fun, and it gives you guys a direct choice and a direct decision on what emojis you guys want. I mean, you guys are the ones that are the members at the end of the day. It's only right that you have a say in what emojis you guys want to have in the chat. So if you have any specific suggestions, leave them into the comment section after the stream. And again, thank you so much, Jen, for becoming, thank you so much, Jen, for donating a membership, and welcome, Leah Bradley. And I think that constitutes a whoa. Indeed, indeed. And yes, Jen Hack, you are so cool, and so is Leah. I 100% agree with that. And I would say each and every one of you that comes and hangs out here is cool in my book. And I really do, from the bottom of my heart, thank everybody for all the support. You guys have been just tremendous with the support you guys have shown us, even in the off season when From was off. You guys have been super supportive. And I am going to continue that ball. We are going to continue and run with that ball as we get closer and closer to the season 3 premiere. So get out there, let everybody know that From season 3 is just around the corner. Now is the perfect time to catch up before the new season arrives. And if you guys haven't already, dive into our Discord. The Discord is free for everybody to join. The link is pinned to the top of the chat, and we have our watch parties directly in the Discord every Sunday night. And this Sunday we will be finishing our season 2 of From Watch Party with episode 8, 9, and 10. But again, big thank you to each and every one of you. And as always, stay safe out there, guys, in this crazy, crazy world that we find ourselves in. Be kind to one another. And as always, keep those tinfoil hats on, folks, and I will see you on the next one.